Alright, so we are starting 10 years ago with a classic hero party staring down some serious carnage. And their big bad is the Demon King Jisbar, who looks like he is having a great day. This hero, a guy with some seriously anime hair, rallies his team for the final showdown. Jisbar winds up a nasty-looking attack, and a dark-haired dude named Alan is watching intently. With a roar, the Demon King unleashes a wave of pure destructive energy. But someone throws up a magic shield just in the nick of time, holding back the blast. Meet Thor, our support mage, looking way too calm for someone stopping a Demon King's attack. His specialty is support magic, which the world has lovingly nicknamed babysitting magic. Ouch. Thor knows his basic shield will not hold for long against this level of power. Still, his entire job is to keep his comrades alive, and he is not about to fail. This hero is already feeling the strain, screaming for Thor as the attack pushes through. Fueled by the power of friendship or something, he prepares a much stronger spell. He decides to add a holy veil to everyone's shields, giving them an extra divine kick. A wave of blue light washes over his party, buffing them up for the fight. Suddenly, the hero feels way lighter on his feet, giving Thor a quick thanks for the boost. But the Demon King is already winding up another attack because villains have zero chill. Thor steps forward, telling everyone he has got this one covered, all confidence, no fear. Flash forward 10 years, the Demon King is toast, and Thor is now in some fancy hall. A former party member maybe calls out to him, and our boy seems a little out of it. Then this smug dude with glasses drops a mountain of exams on him. Talk about a fall from grace. Thor's face says it all as the paperwork avalanche begins, a fate worse than any demon. This guy shoves the exams into his arms, claiming he is actually busy, a classic corporate power move. Left holding the stack, Thor just lets out a defeated sigh in the empty hall. 10 years after quitting the hero life, he is face down in grading, truly living the dream. He is now a teacher at the prestigious Velen Magic Academy, trying to refine his craft. While his colleagues are getting promotions and celebrating, he is stuck on the sidelines. But because support magic is so unpopular, he is still a low-ranked teacher, totally isolated. He claims he is not resentful or surprised by it, which is exactly what a resentful person would say. See, support magic is actually awesome, capable of buffing people, gear, and even other spells. Anything with a magical signature can be powered up or completely nerfed on the fly. It even reduces fatigue and boosts natural healing, a total game changer in a long fight. Unfortunately, the rest of the world has some very different opinions on the matter. Their logic is simple: why bother with buffs when you can just one-shot the enemy with attack magic? Besides, there are already tons of enchanted items that can cover for any weaknesses, which is why everyone has come to one very specific conclusion about his specialty. They all think support magic is only good for babysitting your more important teammates. This entire field is basically treated like a joke, publicly shamed and ignored, and for that exact reason, he's got a bit of a problem with his class this year. This semester, a grand total of one single student has enrolled in his support magic course, so our boy trudges through the magnificent, empty halls, a hero reduced to a lonely professor. A voice calls out to Teacher Thor, and our boy looks less than thrilled to be noticed. His colleagues, ever so helpful, dump even more work on him with a sickeningly sweet smile. They pile on more tasks, even telling him to tidy up the schoolyard because why not? This blonde one cheerfully blames the mess on a student, a masterclass in passing the buck. So Thor sits alone in his massive office, the absolute picture of academic isolation. Staring at the mountain of paper, he is already fantasizing about retirement. At what, 30? Out on the pristine school grounds, he is just a lonely figure in a world of happy couples. Finally, the politeness cracks and he is internally screaming at the sheer injustice of it all. But then he spots a commotion around the corner involving a few students. It is his one and only student, Regnitz, being hassled by some local toughs. A loudmouthed punk named Gibbard is getting right in her face, demanding some respect. Turns out he was trying to recruit her and got shot down, which his fragile ego just cannot handle. Thor knows he cannot just let this slide. Some things are more important than staying under the radar. He steps out from behind the corner, calmly asking the little gang what they think they are doing. His face is all business, a silent warning that he is not here to play games. Gibbard just scoffs, recognizing him as the useless low-rank mage, a real charmer this one. Stepping in front of Riene, Thor tells them to back off, pointing out she is clearly uncomfortable. This punk is absolutely fuming, not used to being told no by someone he sees as a nobody. So he pulls out the big guns, announcing he is the son of some big-shot imperial count. And Thor just hits him with a deadpan "I know," completely unimpressed by his little title drop. Thor calmly explains that at this academy, your family name means absolutely nothing. This lecture, of course, just makes Gibbard even more furious. What a total pain. So he throws a punch, screaming for the eternal low-rank mage to just back off. But Thor catches the fist with one hand, completely stopping the attack cold. Gibbard starts yelping in pain as his knuckles get casually crushed. Not so tough now, huh? Riene quickly steps in, telling Thor this is her problem and he should not worry about it. Her grand plan is to team up with her teacher and face these goons in a magic battle. Then she drops the craziest offer ever: if they win, she will marry one of them or whatever. Thor is having a full-on panic attack over this, but Riene just says they have to win. She turns to him with pleading eyes, asking him to please go along with her plan. Our boy just has this look of pure resignation, like this is just another Tuesday for him. With that settled, Riene asks the bullies if they are fine with this arrangement. She adds her own condition: if she wins, they will never speak rudely to teacher Thor again. A blushing Gibbard stammers out an agreement, completely thrown off by her confidence. He tries to save face by shouting at them not to regret it later, real intimidating. Riene announces a training ground just opened up so they can finish this quickly. A worried Thor calls out her name as she draws a wooden sword, ready for a fight. Gibbard reminds her not to forget her promise, his cronies smirking behind him. Suddenly surrounded by a floral aura, Riene declares she will take the lead so Thor is not bothered, and Thor is just left speechless as his only student prepares to solo the fight for him. Riene asks for his support magic, but Thor is still worried she's going to get hurt. With a sharp look, she turns his concern right back on him with a pointed question. Her question is a total gut punch. Is his magic really as weak as everyone says it is? Thor is just stunned into silence, completely called out on his biggest insecurity. After a beat, he smirks and tells her to leave it to him, pride officially on the line. Riene thanks him for the support and immediately lunges forward, ready to fight. Without missing a beat, Thor casts his spell, targeting his student with a buff. A wave of blue energy envelops Riene, supercharging her movements instantly. She is shocked by the insane speed boost, realizing Thor's magic is something else entirely. Then our boy turns his attention to the bullies, casting a nasty-looking purple debuff. Gibbard and his crew are hit with a slow spell, their bodies suddenly feeling like lead. This punk struggles against the magic, completely immobilized and gritting his teeth. One of his cronies manages to launch a fireball at Riene anyway, a last-ditch effort. In response, Thor just casually enchants her wooden sword with a water attribute. Riene meets the fireball head-on, her blade now glowing with a powerful aqua veil. Gripping her newly powered-up weapon, she prepares to slice right through the flames. A massive arc of water energy from her swing completely neutralizes the fire attack. With a look of pure focus, she cuts through the last of the spell like it is nothing. In the next instant, her sword is at a terrified Gibbard's throat, asking if he has had enough. To really drive the point home, she offers to stab him if he'd like, customer service at its finest. Gibbard is sweating buckets with the sword at his throat, clearly rethinking his life choices. His soul literally leaves his body as his cronies just stand there, blushing with shame. This goon squad is in total disbelief. Their genius leader just got absolutely humiliated. Meanwhile, a new dark-haired guy has been watching the whole thing, impressed by Riene's skills. He seems to know her, wondering when she suddenly became a master swordswoman. Gibbard's friends help him up, one of them shooting a final, pathetic glare their way. And with a final threat, the bullies retreat down a hallway to go cry about it somewhere else. This two mysterious spectators decide that is their cue to leave as well, the show being over. But from a window high above, a very serious-looking old man has been watching everything. His face is a mask of disapproval, and you just know he is about to make this someone's problem. A short while later, Thor finds himself standing outside a very intimidating office door. He's been summoned by the headmaster, who is, of course, the old man from the window. This headmaster sits at his desk, arms crossed, radiating some powerful "you are in trouble" energy. He opens his eyes and says Thor's name, and the atmosphere immediately drops to freezing. Then, with zero preamble, he points down and just says, "You are fired." Well, that escalated. Thor is completely blindsided by this, asking for any kind of explanation for his termination. He immediately tries to bring up the incident with the bullies, thinking that is the cause. But the headmaster says he cannot fund the support magic department anymore and was only humoring the last guy's will. He finishes by calling Thor a salary thief the school no longer needs. Ouch, no severance package then. Our boy is just left completely stunned, the brutal words echoing in his head. Thor clenches his fist, admitting he knew this day would come for his rare magic course. He knows the school's financial trouble is a total lie given the ridiculously lavish decor, and the headmaster confirms it. They cannot risk angering the bully's dad, a major donor. Thor tries to argue, pointing out that the count's son was harassing a young girl. But the old man just slams his fist down, screaming for silence, case closed apparently. This guy launches into a speech about how the academy cannot grow by clinging to old traditions, ranting that Thor just had to go and upset the child of their most important patron. So Thor calls him out directly, asking if the school really plays favorites based on wealth. For a second, the headmaster is actually stunned into silence by the accusation. Then he just doubles down, telling Thor to leave the academy immediately, no arguments. Our boy just looks completely crushed, realizing there is no way to fight this. With his last bit of hope, he tries to make one final request concerning Riene. This headmaster just shouts that he does not know any such student and tells him to get out, brutal. As the door slams shut, Thor is left standing alone in the grand hallway. He is clearly worried not for himself, but for what this means for his student. With a heavy sigh, he turns and walks away from the office, completely defeated. Suddenly, a familiar voice makes him pause and turn his head. It is Riene, his one and only student, who has been looking for him. She starts by thanking him for his help earlier, then says she has some news for him. But Thor cuts her off with the bad news first. He has been fired and this is their last class. Riene is instantly crushed, thinking it is her fault, but Thor tries to play it cool, saying he was quitting anyway. He gives her this gentle goodbye, thanking her for being his student and hoping he was of some help. His student just stares back, totally speechless as the finality of his words sinks in. Her response is immediate. If teacher is quitting, then she is leaving the academy too. Our boy panics, grabbing her and shouting that dropping out will absolutely ruin her future. Pleading with her, he insists she is a brilliant student who needs to graduate, not end up like him. She is a blushing mess from the proximity, stammering that she is not worried about a dead-end job. Calmly, she repeats that her future career is not the issue, which just leaves Thor completely baffled. Then she drops the bomb. She has already earned enough credits to graduate as a second year. Thor is just blown away, realizing he has been teaching an actual prodigy this whole time. But Riene just dismisses her own achievements, saying her future is not what is important here. Getting right to the point, she looks up at him and asks if he is truly quitting the academy. With a sad smile, he confirms it, telling her she is a quick study and will be fine without him. Riene finally relents, turning away and saying she will not try to stop him anymore. She walks off down the hall, and all Thor can do is watch her go, whispering her name. Alone again, he hopes that the support magic he taught her will still be useful in her life. So the next day, he is out front with his bag, telling himself he has no regrets about how things went down. His only real problem now is figuring out where to go since his savings are about to run out. Just then, Riene appears behind him, asking what he's going to do now that he is left. He puts on a brave face, saying he will just wander around like in his old adventure days, a real solid plan. Riene gets this serious look, telling him if he is ever in the capital. For this trip, she gives him a sealed letter with a simple instruction: find a palace guard. Turns out she has an acquaintance in the palace who is a big fan of his work, and this mysterious contact might even be able to hook him up with a new job. Seeing her sincerity, Thor takes the letter, figuring he has nothing left to lose. With a final wave goodbye, they part ways at the academy gates for the last time. As Thor walks off into his uncertain future, Riene just watches him go. Her expression is a mix of sadness and some kind of hidden resolve. In a final promise, she calls out that she will be waiting for him. A few days later, our boy arrives in the sprawling imperial capital to try his luck. And by luck, I mean he is immediately bowing in the emperor's throne room. What is happening? This emperor himself, Heinrich, welcomes him as Sir Thor, which is a bit of a promotion. Thor is just kneeling there, having a full-blown existential crisis over this sudden turn of events. His mind flashes back to the letter Riene gave him, the key to this whole mess. This moment he handed it over, the guard's whole demeanor changed, saying they were expecting him. Our boy's face is just a perfect picture of I have no idea what is going on. A maid then leads him through the palace like he is some kind of visiting dignitary. While he is still processing this life upgrade, she serves him tea and snacks. This is not just any snack either, it is a cake made from some super rare fruit. Thor's brain just short-circuits, completely dazzled by the high-class ingredients. A very fancy butler greets him as Lord Thor, saying they have been expecting him. Okay, what? This guy then gives him the full rapid-fire tour of the palace, listing every single room imaginable. Thor's brain is just a loading screen right now, completely unable to process this sudden life upgrade. Before he knew it, he was just swept along on this VIP tour, still totally confused about why. He is internally spiraling, trying to guess who Riene's ridiculously well-connected acquaintance is. This emperor himself reveals the empire owes him a massive debt for helping defeat the Demon King. Our boy's face shows he remembers that little world-saving event from his adventuring days. But he tries to downplay it, insisting he was just a support mage and his friends did all the work. His Majesty is not buying the modesty, offering him a noble title or literally anything he desires. Thor is just like, I was just looking for a job. Was there some kind of misunderstanding? From way up on his throne, the emperor confirms there was absolutely no mistake. This is happening. Then a silver-haired woman appears, revealing she is the one who read Riene's letter and brought him here. Thor just stares up at her, trying to figure out who this incredibly important-looking person is. She introduces herself as Alina von Neustedt, which sounds suspiciously like a royal name. This name Neustedt hits him like a truck and his jaw just drops to the floor. It all clicks. Riene's acquaintance is not just some contact, she is a full-blown princess. He immediately starts bowing and apologizing, realizing he has been way too casual with royalty. Princess Alina just finds his panic hilarious, telling him there is no need to apologize. She then suggests to the emperor that she show the tired Lord Thor to his room, and with a sly look she adds she was planning to hear his request personally anyway. This emperor gives his full approval, telling the princess he is leaving everything in her hands. Princess Alina then turns to Thor, inviting him to make himself at home in the palace. Our boy is just left kneeling, his brain still trying to process this insane life upgrade. She leads him through a sunlit hall while he is just trying to act like this is normal. Now sitting at a private table, Thor cautiously addresses her as Your Highness. He starts to ask about Riene, the student who set this whole wild encounter in motion, but Alina just smiles, telling him to drop the formalities and just call her by name. Thor gets completely flustered, insisting he cannot, but she reveals Riene told her everything. With a knowing look, she hints that there is a part of their history he has forgotten, and then she drops the bombshell. A long time ago, he was the one who saved her life. She confesses with a hand over her heart that she has admired him from afar ever since. In fact, she was incredibly envious of Riene for getting to be his student when she could not. Thor, ever the self-deprecating hero, insists he is talentless and cannot live up to her praise. Alina immediately shuts that down, quoting Riene, who always found his lectures fascinating. She then leans in, shyly admitting that she also really likes his. And he completely misses the confession, just stunned that someone liked his lectures. A flashback shows him teaching a younger Riene who is rocking a full-on witch getup. Even back then, she was clearly hanging on his every word during their private lessons. Her expression is pure admiration, proving she was his #1 fan from the start. Back in the present, Thor is just bawling his eyes out, totally broken by a single compliment. He is just a mess, crying happy tears that Riene actually valued his teaching. Princess Alina, finding this whole display adorable, asks if he is looking for a job. Still recovering, Thor mumbles that yeah, he was hoping to find some kind of work in the capital. With a sly smile, she offers him a position as a royal court mage, a casual little promotion. Our boy is completely stunned, but she confirms he'd be using his magic right there in the palace. His main duty would be to deal with the various problems the Empire is facing, no big deal. Plus, the benefits package includes free housing and meals, which is a nice little perk. For a salary, she casually throws out 100 gold coins a month, pocket change. Thor's entire nervous system just shuts down at the mention of that number. His brain does the math. 1 coin is a month's living expenses, so she is offering him a literal fortune. Alina just smiles, saying the amount is appropriate and she will even pay him in advance. Barely getting a word out, he addresses her as Your Highness. He cuts right to the chase, asking what she really wants from him for this insane offer. And then she drops the actual bombshell. She'd like him to marry her. Thor's brain just blue screens, pointing in total confusion as the request completely breaks him. Left to process this, he just walks down the hall in a daze, trying to reboot his entire life. This words marry Princess Alina just echo in his mind as he replays the insane proposal. He tries to write it off as a joke, but realizes he cannot refuse the job after eating their fancy cake. Deciding this is a high-stakes political minefield, he resolves to proceed with extreme caution. Just then, Alina points to a door, casually mentioning that this will be his room. Inside his new room, Riene is just casually leaning against the wall, waiting for him. A familiar voice makes him turn, and he is totally caught off guard by who he sees. With a huge smile and a literal flower background, she announces she's been waiting for her teacher. His brain just completely short-circuits, unable to process his star student being right here. Barely believing his eyes, he asks if it is really her, and she just calmly says yes. She gives him her full name, Riene Regnitz, like it has been ages since they last saw each other. A small smile crosses his face as he starts putting the pieces of this puzzle together. He confirms she actually left the academy, and she is just like, yep, already graduated. Her logic is simple: if she cannot take his class, there is zero reason to stay. This compliment just breaks him all over again, touched that she valued his magic so much. He thanks her for landing him the court mage job, admitting it is a little overwhelming. But Riene's got his back, promising to support him with everything she has got. Thor is just confused until she drops another bomb. She is a court mage too. Turns out the princess sent her to the academy specifically to hone her skills as a mage. A flashback shows her as the most diligent student ever, quill in hand. He worries she got in trouble for leaving, but nope, the princess told her to take his class. Our boy is just stunned, realizing the princess must think he is some kind of genius. And now for the kicker, her new official duty is to be his personal assistant. With a beaming smile, she says she is looking forward to working with him, her new boss. Thor is just frozen, a flower petal on his head, trying to process this latest insane development. Riene tells him to drop the formalities since she is his assistant now, which is just wild. Still trying to process this, Thor asks if she is seriously okay with being his subordinate. Pushing up her glasses, she insists he just call her by name, and he is just like, got it. So our boy finally asks the important question: what exactly does a court mage even do? With a dramatic pose, she says he can do literally whatever he wants: shopping, traveling, you name it. Thor is understandably confused, asking if that is even a job, and she just admits, no. This whole cushy setup, she clarifies, is entirely Princess Alina's special arrangement for him. Apparently, court mages serve the royals, but the princess almost never gives direct orders anyway. This only real work happens in wartime when they follow the division commander's lead. Realizing no orders means no work, Thor gets an offer from Riene to go meet the boss. He thinks meeting his new commander is a good idea, so she leads him down the hall. At a grand door, Riene announces herself and asks to be let in for a moment. A voice from inside grants them entry, and they step towards the massive double doors. As the door swings open, the first thing they see is a pair of very expensive-looking boots. And inside is this sleazy-looking dude, Badan Zaxberg, with a woman on each arm, real professional. Riene introduces Thor as the new court mage to the vice commander, who does not look pleased. This Badan guy is completely blindsided, shouting that he has not heard a thing about this. He then dismisses Riene, claiming he has never even heard of her becoming a court mage. Unfazed, she calmly states she was appointed 3 years ago and has the emblem to prove it. She points to the official crest on her uniform, confirming it is legit, much to his annoyance. Badan scoffs that Thor is probably just some small fry who will not get any real work anyway. Turning his attention to our boy, he demands to know who hired such an unrefined person. Riene calmly drops the mic, stating it was none other than Princess Alina. This gives the vice commander pause, as he claims he was never informed of this decision. She points out that is precisely why they are here, to deliver the news personally. Riene then brings up the division commander, the actual person in charge, but since he is away on official business, this guy Badan is the acting commander for now. With a polite bow, she says they look forward to working with him, a total power move. Badan immediately rejects this, claiming he has sole authority over hiring and will not approve it. Both Riene and Thor just stare, completely unbothered by his little tantrum. So Riene just asks if he is planning on defying a direct order from the Emperor's family. He sputters that it is about protecting the court mage's reputation from some random nobody. Pushing up her glasses, she calls out his logic, asking if defying royalty is the better look. She then poses the question of what asterisk really damages their reputation, insubordination perhaps. Deciding this is a waste of time, Riene dismisses him as a small fry and turns to leave. Badan absolutely loses it, slamming the table and demanding they stop right there. He gets right in their faces, furious that they dare to walk away from him. And Thor finally steps in with a smirk, asking if he wants to test his qualifications. This vice commander just points and yells that he can tell Thor is useless just by looking at him. Our boy just gives him a look, sarcastically saying of course he'd be worried. Badan, with peak managerial condescension, asks what kind of magic Thor even specializes in. Our boy quietly admits he is a support mage, which gets an immediate scandalized reaction. This whole room just erupts in laughter because apparently buffs and heals are comedy gold now. Completely unfazed, Thor just asks for a fair opportunity to demonstrate his skills. He lays out the terms. If he proves he has potential, he gets the job, no questions asked. And if he is found lacking, he promises to walk away gracefully, a true gentleman's challenge. This sleazy commander actually considers it, probably seeing a prime chance for public humiliation. With a lazy smirk, he agrees, saying he was conveniently about to hold a hiring exam anyway. Badan then leans in, practically daring Thor to show him anything even remotely impressive. A confident smile spreads across Thor's face, totally ready to take this guy's bait. After Thor gives a polite bow, the vice commander just tells him to try not to die, real encouraging. Riene gives a sharp look to the staff, basically telling them to get this show on the road. A bell rings out across the capital, summoning all the other hopeful court mage applicants. Suddenly, a whole crowd of other mages starts pouring into the courtyard for the exam. Thor is just amazed at how many people showed up in less than an hour. He looks around at the competition, clearly a little overwhelmed by the sheer number of candidates. Just then, some arrogant red-haired dude starts trash-talking the other applicants to Badan. This guy then declares himself their future commander, calling everyone else small fry. What a charmer. His attention then lands on Thor, getting ready to deliver some personalized insults. But Thor just lights up, waving and happily calling out the guy's name, Jybird. Jybird is completely stunned, stammering at the sight of his old academy rival. His brain just short-circuits seeing Thor and Riene together, letting out a terrified shriek. Immediately, he grabs onto some bald guy, sobbing that his career ambitions are officially dead. This man just shakes him, telling him to get a grip while Jybird has a full-blown public meltdown. Turning on Thor, this guy, who is apparently Jybird's dad, demands to know what he did to his son. Our boy just plays it cool, claiming they only had a small match back at school, a total understatement. Jybird's dad is clearly not impressed, telling his son to stop whining because the exam is starting. He then gives his son a very motivating face squish, reminding him this whole thing is for his benefit. In the courtyard, a massive sea of applicants stands ready, all competing for the same job. With a raised hand, Jybird's dad officially kicks off the court magician selection exam. This crowd is just full of smug-looking dudes, each one probably thinking they are the next big thing. But the examiner points straight at Thor, announcing he is going to test our boy personally. Thor is absolutely thrilled by this, shouting his acceptance without a second of hesitation. He even gives a formal thank you, ready to prove everyone wrong right here and now. A quick rundown explains that court mages are expected to use their specialized magic for their duties. This examiner then brings up Thor's specialty in support magic with maximum condescension. Suddenly, his attention is drawn away by the arrival of someone unexpected. Two knights in full armor step into the arena, looking serious and official. This examiner greets the lead knight, Verger, confirming he has brought a royal knight recruit as requested, and the recruit is a young woman who looks just a little bit overwhelmed by the whole situation. This examiner starts by calling out the person with the worst combat evaluation score, clearing his throat for drama. And with zero surprise to anyone, he calls out Thor's name for this special test. This setup is a 2v2 match. Thor and the new knight recruit against the powerhouse Verger and Jybird. His new partner, the rookie knight, looks like she's just seen a ghost and her own career flash before her eyes. Riene explains that Verger is a monster in the Royal Knights, making this a completely unfair fight, but the examiner just smirks, saying that actually winning is not the requirement to pass. He then promises to be lenient, which is somehow the most threatening thing he could have possibly said. Our little team just stands there in stunned silence, trying to process this whole rigged situation. Thor, ever the professional, turns to his new partner to make introductions. He tells her he is a support mage, and she nervously introduces herself as a Royal Guard recruit. Suddenly, Riene cuts in, recognizing the girl and dropping her full name, Mia Valsburg. She then gives a full background check, revealing Mia is a baron's daughter who passed the exam 6 months ago. However, her first combat evaluation resulted in a spectacular E rank, which is just brutal. Turns out she is a great shield specialist who is great at defense but cannot do anything alone. And the final blow, Mia is apparently on the shortlist for dismissal, a fact she seems to be hearing for the first time. Thor is floored by this public shaming, and Riene has the nerve to say some things are better left unsaid. Mia just gives a pained smile, admitting it is all true while trying not to completely fall apart. Their opponent Verger, meanwhile, is hyped as the strongest warrior right after the division commander himself. Feeling the weight of it all, Mia apologizes to Thor for dragging him into her mess. She looks up at him with genuine guilt, worried this impossible test will ruin his chances, too. Mia is just staring, completely panicked by the impossible odds stacked against them. But Reuniting just smiles, confidently declaring they cannot lose since teacher Thor is on their team. She turns to Thor for confirmation, putting all the pressure squarely on his shoulders. Our boy sweats a little, feeling the weight of Mia's terrified gaze on him. With a reassuring smile, Thor tells Mia not to worry, promising he will secure their victory. He asks her to do her best with him, trying to build some last-minute team spirit. Inspired by his confidence, Mia gets a blushy-faced second wind and agrees. This two of them share a moment, now a proper team ready to face the music. Up on the balcony, Jaibert's dad is screaming at his son to stop shaking like a leaf. Jaibert is still having a full-on meltdown, absolutely terrified of facing Thor again. His dad points out that the scary woman with glasses is not even fighting him. He then grabs his son's face, reminding him he is up against a pathetic support mage and a rookie knight. To make it even more rigged, he reveals he has called in the legendary Verger to be Jaibert's partner. This examiner gives a smug grin, asking how his son could possibly lose with this dream team. Jaibert looks up, a single tear rolling down his face as his fear turns into something else. His dad gives him one last shake, telling him to go all out and that it is fine to even kill Thor, peak parenting. Suddenly filled with a villainous new resolve, Jaibert vows to turn our boy to ash. Meanwhile, the powerhouse knight Verger observes from the side, admitting Mia has potential. His eyes then narrow as he focuses his attention on the other opponent, Thor. From the sidelines, Verger takes in the whole scene, sizing up the competition before the match starts. Verger gives Thor a knowing smirk, realizing our boy is someone you cannot underestimate. This examiner announces the rules for this exam, a mock battle where anything goes. From the balcony, Reuniting and Jaibert's dad watch as the two teams face off below. This corrupt examiner just laughs, absolutely relishing the public beatdown he has arranged. Reuniting's eyes narrow, identifying their legendary opponent, Royal Guard Verger. And we get a quick flashback of Verger casually fighting two gigantic red dragons. Apparently this guy is a certified hero, famous for slaying the strongest monsters in the world. With a confident grin, Reuniting calls him a worthy opponent. She is totally eating this up. This examiner boasts that with Verger and his son's best fire magic, victory is guaranteed. Down on the field, Mia braces herself, knowing she is up against an absolute beast. Jaibert starts charging a massive fireball, convinced that without Reuniting, Thor is a nobody. He then unleashes a colossal wave of flames straight at our underdog team. With a truly unhinged look, Jaibert screams out his attack name. Hell burn, real creative. But Thor steps in front of Mia, telling her to leave the magic countermeasures to him. Our boy calmly states that a powerful spell is meaningless if it does not actually land. He casts a spell and Jaibert's fiery attack suddenly slows to a crawl midair. Thor lays out his two-step plan, delay the spell, then disperse its magic in the opening. Except it is not Thor's magic from the stands, Reuniting is casting her own counterspell. Her purge spell slams into the fireball, completely extinguishing Jaibert's ultimate attack. Jaibert is left totally stunned, wondering why his epic move just vanished into thin air. Without a moment's hesitation, the legendary knight Verger charges forward to attack. But in a flash, he realizes Thor is no ordinary man, seeing something more in his eyes. Thor stands calmly beside Mia, hand raised as she braces herself behind her great shield. Verger swings down on the rookie knight, telling her not to take it personally. Mia grits her teeth, determined to block the attack from this absolute monster. Our boy explains his strategy. Instead of trying to debuff a legend, he is going to buff his ally. He casts a spell called Wall on Mia's armor and shield, massively boosting her defenses. With a quick reassurance, Thor tells her she can withstand the blow now. Verger's glowing sword slams down onto her shield with overwhelming force. This sheer power of the impact sends a shockwave through Mia, who cries out in surprise. A brilliant flash of light erupts as the legendary warrior's attack is somehow stopped. From above, we see Mia holding her ground, pushed back but not broken by the incredible strike. She is amazed, realizing she can deflect the attack far better than ever before thanks to Thor. Knowing she cannot tank forever, Thor decides to take out the weak link first. He immediately zaps Jaibert with a lightning spell, causing the guy to scream in agony. A close-up shows Jaibert's eyes rolling back into his head, completely fried by the attack. He just stands there smoking, totally out of the fight after one hit. So much for elite magic. Up on the balcony, his dad watches in horror as his son gets taken down like a chump. This corrupt examiner starts screaming for them to stop, trying to call off the whole exam. His face is a mask of pure rage as he denies what just happened, completely losing his composure. This corrupt examiner starts screaming to cancel the match, his perfect plan going up in smoke. But from the balcony, Reuniting gives him a look that could freeze hell over. With a flash of purple magic, she non-verbally tells him to shut his mouth and enjoy the show. Down below, Thor hits Verger with a slow debuff right as the knight swings at Mia. This legendary warrior looks genuinely surprised, his attack suddenly feeling sluggish. You can see the magic taking hold, disrupting the perfect flow of his legendary swordsmanship. And our boy just watches, completely calm as his battlefield control kicks in. Thor's internal monologue reveals the trick. He could not debuff Verger, so he just dispelled the magic on his sword. With the immediate threat neutralized, he pivots to buffing Mia with spell acceleration. He then yells at her to swing her mace with all her might, time to go on offense. Snapping out of her terror, Mia gives a determined shout and puts her whole body into the attack. As her mace comes down, Thor reveals his next move is to make her weapon incredibly heavy. He casts Gravity Raid, amplifying the force of her swing at the exact moment of impact. These two weapons collide in a massive flash of light, the shockwave echoing through the arena. Verger is actually struggling, completely stunned that a rookie is pushing him back like this. But he grits his teeth, roaring that this one little trick will not be enough to stop him. Digging in, the legendary knight starts to overpower her, unleashing a massive counterswing. His face is a mask of pure concentration as he pours even more power into his blade. Thor watches this unfold, realizing Verger is about to unleash an even faster attack. And the penny drops, the knight is targeting Asterisk himself with his own spell to counter the debuff. Verger's attack shatters against the buffed-up shield, the wall of steel completely overwhelming him. This legendary knight is left staring, his expression a perfect mix of shock and grudging respect, and our boy just gives him a calm little smile, the absolute king of battlefield control. With his sword completely broken, Verger is officially disarmed and defeated. He stands there processing the loss, realizing Thor's magic is far beyond simple buffs and debuffs. Looking over at the exhausted Mia, he admits to himself that this mage is on another level entirely. In a surprising show of sportsmanship, Verger actually compliments Mia, telling her she did well. She is completely flustered, blushing from the praise of the very legend she was terrified to face. He then tells her it is time to return to headquarters, and she eagerly agrees. Her face is absolutely glowing with newfound confidence, a total 180 from the start of the match. As Verger leads the rookie knight off the field, Thor watches the result of his work. He gives a satisfied little laugh, clearly pleased with how he completely dismantled this rigged test. Suddenly, Reuniting appears at his side, congratulating her teacher on the victory. She is practically sparkling with pride, officially congratulating him on passing the exam. Our boy is a little taken aback by the sudden praise, just managing a simple thanks. But of course, the corrupt examiner starts screaming from the stands that the exam is not over yet. This absolute clown declares he will not recognize the results unless Thor passes asterisk another match. Reuniting just clicks her tongue, completely unimpressed by his persistent, pathetic cheating. Thor's expression hardens, realizing this farce is going to continue until he breaks the guy's spirit. Looking the examiner dead in the eye, he calmly accepts the challenge, ready for round 2. Reuniting is a little stunned by his decision, calling out to her teacher with concern. But Thor just tells her he wants to truly test his own abilities this time. With a calm smile, he says this is how he will prove he is worthy of being a court magician. This corrupt examiner gives a big, slimy thumbs up, telling them to just wait a moment. From his balcony, he is already screaming threats about teaching Thor a lesson, a real class act. Elsewhere, a new challenger appears, sighing as she closes her book, clearly not thrilled to be here. This witchy-looking mage wonders aloud why on earth she has to be his opponent, and we get a name for our reluctant combatant, Luna from the Court Magician Corps. She is really not feeling it, complaining about having to deal with someone like this. This examiner immediately starts pulling rank, reminding her she is the commander's daughter and needs to act like it. Luna just deadpans that this guy is definitely not her parent, which is a fantastic burn. Resigned to her fate, she grabs her staff and hops down, ready to get this over with. He keeps yelling about bringing shame to her family, so she just asks why he does not fight Thor himself, zing. After a quick glance, she dismisses our boy as looking incredibly weak, a classic mistake. From her vantage point, she looks down at Thor and Reuniting waiting in the arena below. This examiner thinks this is a gimme match, just a way to let her save face against an easy target. Taking a moment to properly size him up, Luna seems to be reconsidering her initial assessment. Finally, she agrees with a smirk, deciding she might as well blow off some steam while she is here. This examiner is confident her top-class magic cannot possibly lose to a mere support mage, but even with the odds stacked, he warns himself not to let his guard down. His evil grin says otherwise. This examiner's inner monologue reveals his real plan, burying the commander's daughter along with Thor. He is so committed to this scheme he is even considering getting his own hands dirty. When a guy down on the field, Luna approaches, asking if Thor is the old man who applied for the job. Thor just smiles, introducing himself and correctly guessing she is the next examiner. She is genuinely surprised he figured it out so quickly, a little taken aback by his perception. He points out the constant magic flow in her staff, the clear sign of an experienced mage. A close-up shows Luna blushing, clearly impressed by the unexpected compliment. She is happy he is not treating her like a kid, but Reuniting is absolutely not having any of it. Reuniting gets right in her face, lecturing her on manners and not coasting on a pretty face. This lecture continues, with Reuniting defining what it means to be a true adult. Oh, the irony. Luna is absolutely seething, completely losing her cool over Reuniting's condescending attitude. Thor quickly steps in, trying to play peacemaker between the two bickering mages. With a charming smile, he says he is looking forward to working with her anyway. A little flustered, Luna accepts his apology and finally introduces herself properly. Our boy just wants to get on with it, asking what the next test will be. She points right at him, stating the test is simple, they are going to fight. Luna lays down the one and only rule. The match ends the instant a magic attack lands. She then walks to her spot in the arena, ready to get this whole thing over with. With a confident shout, the new examiner officially declares the match has begun. and she immediately starts casting, combining wind, aqua, and acceleration for a lightning-fast attack. Luna yawns while casting her big opening move, not taking this seriously at all. But she is suddenly shocked by how fast something is coming right at her, and gets a face full of water for her trouble, a direct hit from Thor's spell. She just stands there completely drenched, the entire match over in literally 1 second. Stunned, she asks what just happened while Reuniting congratulates her teacher on the win. Luna is absolutely losing it, screaming that they need to hold on a minute. Thor calmly reminds her of her own rule, 1 hit and the match is over. She keeps complaining that she was not even ready, demanding a do-over, so much for elite composure. Our boy actually asks Reuniting if they can have a rematch, much to her surprise. Reuniting points out that it is Luna's fault for letting her guard down, a lesson in humility. But Thor just smiles and asks her again, wanting a real test of his skills. He explains that an instant win like that tells him absolutely nothing about his true abilities. Seeing his determination, Reuniting reluctantly agrees to his wish for a second round. Luna gets serious now, warning the old man that he is about to regret this. Thor accepts the challenge, promising to come at her with everything he has. With a determined look, Luna starts weaving a much more powerful spell this time. She unleashes a massive blast of light magic, aiming to end this quickly. Thor counters with his own wind spell, knowing a direct debuff on her is impossible. These two opposing magical forces rush toward each other, about to collide in the center, and he realizes his only option is to counter with the same magic, a supposedly impossible feat. Luna's internal monologue gloats about the vast difference in power as she unleashes a massive light spell. She declares the real fight is on, but Thor is already countering with a mega aqua of his own. Our boy stays completely calm, already calculating his next move against this overwhelming force. His plan is to use support magic to kill her attack's momentum, casting a spell called Stand. A huge purple magic circle materializes right in the path of her attack, a perfect defensive play. From his spell, a giant water serpent erupts, roaring as it rushes to meet her blast head-on. These two spells collide with incredible force, and you can see Thor is actually straining to hold his ground. He is sweating, realizing she is chaining high-level, multi-elemental spells without even trying. Meanwhile, Luna just stands there looking smug, juggling 3 different elements like it is a party trick. This raw talent actually reminds Thor of someone from his past, sparking a little trip down memory lane. We get a flashback to his adventuring days, thinking about a certain companion he used to travel with. Turns out he and this other guy started magic at the same time, but his friend was a prodigy who left him in the dust. He admits he was super envious and frustrated watching this natural genius from the sidelines. Thor's inner monologue gets real. He knew he just did not have any remarkable talent of his own. But in the heat of battle, there was no time to feel sorry for himself with monsters trying to kill them. So he hit the books, determined to at least not be a burden and instead help his team shine. His new goal became helping everyone else reach their absolute full potential, even if he could not. And that is the moment he decided to dedicate his entire life to mastering support magic. We see a glimpse of this prodigy companion, who looks incredibly serious and focused. This flashback ends on a cliffhanger, with Thor explaining that for this very reason Thor snaps out of his memories, telling himself to focus on the exam right now. Back in the present, he is still locked in this high-stakes magical duel with Luna. His opponent is absolutely losing it, screaming about why nothing is working against him. She cannot believe he is anticipating her every move, even her next spell, a thunder attack. Our boy just gives her this calm, knowing look like he is playing 4D chess. This realization finally hits her and she is completely stunned by his strategy. She is kicking herself for falling for such a basic feint, a total rookie mistake. With a tight grip on her staff, she decides it is time to stop messing around. She calls down a massive thunder strike from the sky, a spell meant to end it all. But this is the exact opening Thor was waiting for, and he immediately makes his move. He sprints across the arena floor, closing the distance while she is stuck in her casting animation. His inner monologue reveals his first move was intentionally a moment too late, just a probe. Lying on the ground, he smirks because this was his real plan all along, to create this chance. From his low vantage point, he unleashes a quick blast of wind magic. His strategy is to use the wind to conceal his magical presence, a classic misdirection. Then he will use acceleration to zip into her blind spot and end this in one clean hit. This sudden gust of wind sends her stumbling back with a surprised shriek. She is completely flustered, sweating as she realizes she has been outplayed at every turn. Thor just holds up a hand, calmly declaring that the match is over. Looking down at the scene, Reuniting proudly announces the professor's victory. Luna's hand trembles on her staff, still trying to process what just happened. With a blush of pure humiliation, she finally admits out loud that she lost. Her inner monologue replays the fatal error. Her own hand created the blind spot he exploited. Thor tries to catch his breath, chalking up his narrow victory to his greater combat experience. But he knows if she'd been serious, her raw power would have completely overwhelmed him. Watching from his balcony, the corrupt examiner has the slimiest grin on his face. He notes that with everyone's attention on the two fighters, no one is watching him, and this gives him the perfect opportunity to cast his own thunder strike. What a snake. Down below, Thor's instincts scream that something is terribly wrong. He looks up to see a massive purple magic circle, recognizing the thunder spell from before. In a panic, he realizes it never dissipated and is about to slam right into Luna. There's no time to figure out why, he just knows she is in mortal danger. Luna just stands there, completely unaware of the giant magical death sentence hanging over her. Thor's first thought is that her magic went haywire, but quickly decides he has to act regardless. But then a horrifying realization hits him as he connects the dots. He sprints towards Luna, yelling at her to throw her staff into the air. While running, he casts a float spell to suspend it midair. She is totally confused but trusts him, tossing her weapon just as he commanded. Next, he casts acceleration on himself, his hand glowing with golden energy. Using the floating staff as a springboard, he launches himself into the sky to intercept the attack. With a final push, Thor rockets into the air to meet the spell head-on. Down below, Luna is still processing his bizarre order to toss her weapon. A horrifying thought hits her as she realizes her magic is still active somehow. And that is when the thunder strike comes crashing down, homing in on the staff. This floating weapon becomes a perfect lightning rod, drawing the entire spell to itself. An insane blast of purple lightning obliterates the sky where the staff was floating. On the ground, Thor lands with Luna safely in his arms, having snatched her at the last second. Our boy checks if she is all right, but she is just staring back, a blushing, stammering mess. Her entire brain just blue screens. The poor girl is completely overwhelmed. Finding her voice, she insists she could have stopped it herself, a likely story. This flustered screaming continues as she demands to be put down this instant. Thor just sighs and gently sets her down, probably used to this kind of thing. But she is not finished, pointing and declaring this rescue does not count as a win. Promising to beat him to a pulp next time, she stomps away in a classic tsundere exit. At that moment, the corrupt examiner makes his grand entrance, refusing to acknowledge Thor's pass. That slimy Count Satchberg announces with glee that Thor has officially failed. What a surprise. His little power trip is immediately interrupted by a squad of Imperial Knights surrounding him. Their captain informs the Count he is being taken into custody by Imperial decree. His charges are read aloud for everyone to hear: embezzlement, bribery, abuse of authority, the works. In chains, the pathetic Count starts sweating, insisting he does not know anything at all. This Knights haul the Count away while he pulls the oldest trick in the book, screaming about his innocence. Riene watches the whole mess, commenting on what a waste it was for a skilled vice commander to get done in by greed. Thor just stands there looking completely bewildered, probably wondering if this is a normal part of the exam. But Riene could not care less about that guy, turning to Thor with a huge smile to congratulate him on passing. He is a little confused if this all counts, but she assures him this was the princess's plan from the very beginning. With an almost angelic glow, she declares that he is more than qualified to serve as a court mage. In fact, she is completely fangirling, gushing that his support magic is the greatest in the world. Later, Thor collapses onto a bed in a seriously fancy room, just trying to process the day's chaos. He stares up at the ceiling, still a little unsure if he actually passed the test or not. A small smile creeps onto his face as he decides that, official or not, he still came out on top. Just then, he hears Riene's voice asking for a moment, and he sits up to let her in. Except it is not Riene, it is a very regal-looking princess, here to apologize for the vice commander's actions. Our boy absolutely panics trying to stand, even trying to cast acceleration on himself just to get up, and fails spectacularly. Now on the floor complaining about his sore legs, he offers her a seat while she just tells him to relax. She gracefully accepts his offer, taking a seat at the ornate table in the room. This princess explains that Riene gave her the full report, praising his brilliant performance under pressure. Thor admits he was actually glad for the test since he had his own doubts about being qualified. Intrigued by his honesty, she leans in and asks for his own assessment of how he did. He gets this smug little look on his face, saying he thinks he can manage and found the local talent stimulating. She immediately calls him out, teasing that he has taken a liking to Luna, which makes him ask if she was watching the whole time. This princess lays on the praise, calling his magical display magnificent and very cool. Thor completely short-circuits at the compliment while she internally roasts him for being so pathetic with praise. She leans in close, telling him to stop being so modest and own his obvious skill. Deciding he has had enough excitement for one day, she prepares to take her leave. Our boy looks up, a little startled by her sudden exit, but she just tells him to lean on Riene for anything he might need while he is here, specifically mentioning that Riene wants to handle all his needs, right down to washing his back. This very dedicated form of respect seems to be blowing a fuse in Thor's brain. Just before she is out the door, the princess reminds him not to forget her words from earlier. He is left standing alone in the ridiculously fancy room, just staring at the exit. Thinking about Riene's admiration for his magic actually brings him to tears of joy. But then he remembers the other asterisk thing the princess said to him that afternoon. A quick flashback reveals she straight up asked him to marry her, no big deal or anything. Thor's entire system crashes as he screams in shock just as a hand grabs his arm. And it is Riene who just walked in and is now very confused by his welcome screaming. Totally unaware of his mental breakdown, she has just brought him a homemade chiffon cake. Now munching on dessert, Thor has to admit the cake is actually incredible. Riene is absolutely glowing, just thrilled that her professor is enjoying her gift. He watches her for a moment, thinking about how genuinely kind she is. But his inner monologue reveals he is worried she will see his limits once they are on the road together. Thor's inner monologue is just a self-roast session, calling himself pathetic for his stubborn pride. But Riene, sipping her tea, tells him he is already doing more than enough for her. Her promise of unconditional support is so touching it immediately makes our boy start crying again. They share another slice of cake, a rare moment of peace in this chaotic new life. Meanwhile, that night in the castle, a maid announces that the princess's bed has been prepared. This princess dismisses her from the desk, clearly planning to stay up a little longer. Once she is alone, a very particular, almost mischievous glint appears in her eyes. She pulls out a sketchbook and a whole arsenal of colored pencils. It is go time. Blindfolded, she channels magic into her pencil because drawing like a normal person is for chumps. With incredible focus, her hands fly across the page, sketching at supernatural speed. And her one and only subject tonight is, of course, her dear Professor Thor. This finished portrait has her blushing and squealing about how he totally blew away her expectations. Her mind races, gushing about all the new expressions she saw on his face today. She is currently sketching the scene where he heroically saved Luna from the thunder spell. Then a devious thought hits her. Maybe she should just redraw it with her asterisk being saved instead. She imagines two versions of herself, Riene and Alina, trying to decide on the perfect self-insert. With a sly little smirk, she ponders which persona would look better being swept off her feet. She is absolutely determined to give her strongest professor the happy ending he deserves. Her grand strategy is laid bare, first a title and then, if all goes well, marriage. But she concedes the final choice must be his, while Thor sleeps on, totally oblivious to the Yandir artist upstairs. While the princess gleefully plans her next artistic masterpiece, someone out there is suddenly sneezing up a storm. This next day, Thor strolls into the court mage's hall looking way too confident for his own good. Immediately, the gossip starts flying as the other mages insist his victory was completely rigged. He was not expecting a warm welcome, but decides to just let his skills shut them up eventually. Turning to his one ally, he calls for Riene, who pops up instantly like a loyal puppy. Our boy tries to be polite, saying she is too busy to be his personal tour guide, but she insists on taking care of him, completely misreading his request for a little independence. Just the thought of being asked for help sends her into a state of pure, sparkly-eyed bliss. He literally offers to do some gardening to earn his keep, but she is horrified by the idea. This sends Thor into a full-blown moral panic about wasting taxpayer money, a truly rare condition. She just finds his work ethic incredibly earnest, while he thinks he is just being a normal person. As a compromise, she points him toward the bulletin board for freelance tasks. So off they go, taking a scenic walk through the ridiculously fancy castle corridors. He asks for a little clarification on what exactly these free tasks are. Riene explains with a cute little diagram that they are basically the leftover jobs nobody else wants. Thor quickly connects the dots. These are the absolute bottom of the barrel quests, are not they? With a sly little wink, she confirms he has guessed exactly right. They finally arrive at the court mage division office to see what is available, and the board is a goldmine of terrible opportunities, collecting dragon dung, being a medical test subject, you name it. He notes that the rewards are garbage for the risk involved, just as another mage approaches from behind. This other mage scoffs at the low-tier quests, but Thor spots one with some real urgency. Riene reads the details. A village's crops have been mysteriously poisoned for 2 years straight. Apparently, previous investigators found nothing, and since the village is not totally wiped out, nobody cares. Hearing this, Thor immediately decides he is going to check out the problem himself. That same loudmouth from before mocks him for taking a worthless quest. What a tool. But Riene just snaps to attention, ready to follow her professor to the ends of the earth. Thor just smiles, saying there is nothing more rewarding than helping people who need it. This sends Riene into a full-on worship session, gushing about how he is above all the petty mages. He is a little embarrassed by the praise, though he secretly loves every second of it. A little while later, they arrive via magic bubble, spotting the village in the distance. It only took 2 hours, a trip Riene credits entirely to Thor's amazing support magic. As they approach the gates, the place looks eerily dead, no smoke, no people, nothing. A lone guard greets them before quickly fetching the village chief to meet the visitors. An old man named Graba is shocked that anyone from the palace actually showed up to help. After some tearful thank yous, Thor asks to be taken directly to the problem area. This chief is more than happy to oblige, leading them out toward the blighted fields. Walking through the desolate town, Thor realizes the situation is way worse than the report suggested. They arrive at a field of dead, purple plants, and the chief says it is not from the water or wind. Thor's first guess is the soil, but nope, previous tests already confirmed it is perfectly fine. With no scientific cause, the chief just figures they have angered a sacred tree and have been praying ever since. Thor spots one massive tree just chilling in the middle of the purple poison field, totally unfazed. Ready to get to work, he plans to find the poison source as Riene fangirls in the background. Stepping into the blighted field, he picks a spot to begin his investigation. With a deep breath, our boy announces it is time to begin, much to Riene's absolute delight. He unleashes a support spell called Purity, designed specifically to neutralize poisons and ailments. For a second, the plants turn from purple to a dead yellow, but Thor immediately says it is not working. And sure enough, the purple blight starts creeping right back into the vegetation. But Thor notices something critical, telling them to look at which side is turning purple faster. Following the poison's flow, he points directly toward the so-called sacred tree. This village chief is absolutely stunned that he is blaming their holy symbol for the curse. Apparently, this tree is a 1,000-year-old spiritual landmark that nobody even gets close to. Besides, the chief says the last investigators already checked it out, so problem solved, right? From way up high you can see just how much they revere this thing, keeping a wide berth. Thor looks up and has to admit the tree looks perfectly healthy, not like a source of poison at all. He asks for permission to cast a purification spell near it, and the chief reluctantly agrees. Our boy gives Riene a quick, knowing glance before getting down to business. Once again, he prepares to cast Purity, but this time with a very specific target in mind. A massive wave of cleansing energy blasts directly toward the base of the ancient tree. Thor watches intently, noting that the spell seems to have absolutely no effect on the tree itself. Until the ground starts to grumble and crack right at the roots, something's definitely down there. This ground shatters around the tree's roots, throwing everyone off balance. Thor's eyes widen as he realizes what he has just uncovered, a classic oh crap moment. Suddenly the sacred tree starts glowing and cracking apart, much to the villagers' horror. All three of them stare up as their holy symbol reveals its monstrous nature. A quick lore drop explains this is a treant, a monster born from a possessed tree. Thor looks up, realizing this is not just any old walking plant from the bestiary. Because this thing is absolutely massive, with a face only a demonic lumberjack could love. This villagers are screaming their heads off as the 1,000-year-old landmark prepares to attack. Our boy confirms the obvious, he has never seen a treant even remotely this huge before. And right on cue, a massive root whips out, sending Riene and the chief into a panic. Thor immediately casts a speed buff, yelling at the old man to get the heck out of there. This chief's only response is a very reasonable, "I am old and slow, you idiot." But the spell kicks in, sending him rocketing away like a geriatric track star. With the civilian clear, Thor tells Riene to fall back and let him handle it. Riene, however, just draws her sword, looking ready for a fight herself. She calmly tells her professor that she is perfectly fine, thank you very much. Giving him the go-ahead to do what is needed, Thor has a quick flashback. He remembers her duel at the academy, realizing her sword skills are way beyond a normal mage's, so he decides the best strategy is for him to play support for asterisk her on this S-rank level threat. Riene is practically vibrating with joy at the chance to show off for her professor. Riene gets a full suite of buffs from Thor, absolutely amped to fight together, but Thor immediately screams a warning as roots erupt from right under her feet. She dodges with a smirk, coolly remarking that the attack was just too slow for her. Her eyes narrow with intense focus, completely unfazed by the near miss. And Thor's already got the pattern down, realizing the roots attack in a predictable sequence. He throws out a deceleration spell, noting the treant's attacks are relentless despite its size. With that opening, Riene leaps into the air, sword glowing and ready to slice and dice. Watching her move, Thor gets a weird feeling that he has seen her sword style somewhere before. He shakes it off to dodge another root, reminding himself that even a giant tree has a weakness. Our boy shouts the strategy. He will keep the roots busy while she aims for the main trunk. She is more than happy to oblige, promising to close the distance in a single burst. He is just in awe of her skill, realizing she is a top-tier swordswoman on top of being a mage. She zips through the air, dodging a barrage of attacks with almost impossible agility. Finally reaching the main body, she sees its branches are moving like giant defensive arms. Without hesitation, she goes for a powerful strike against one of the tree's limbs. But her sword just bounces right off, the wood is way too thick to cut through. Thor realizes the problem from his vantage point, there is almost no opening to exploit. Then his eyes lock onto something, a tiny detail in the chaos that changes everything. He has found it, a small gap right in the monster's core, the perfect weak spot, so he starts casting, aiming a formula target spell directly at Riene's sword for a power-up. Thor's spell ignites her blade with a fire veil, and Riene is ready to cook this thing. She is totally geeking out over his skill, amazed he could pull off such a precise buff mid-battle. With the fire enhancement, her sword carves right into the treant's limb, making it shriek. Riene gracefully flips away from the monster after landing a solid hit. Down below, Thor notes that a strike like that would have ended a normal treant, but this one's different. And sure enough, the giant tree is still standing, just looking incredibly ticked off. Suddenly, a strange dripping sound makes Thor pause, wondering if it is sap. But what is leaking from the wound is not sap, it is some kind of glowing blue liquid. This stuff starts pouring out all over its body, completely extinguishing the magical flames. He quickly realizes it is not some magic potion, it is just plain old water. Riene connects the dots, it is pulling groundwater up through its roots to douse the fire, a clever move for a plant. This fire is completely out, and despite being a little singed, the monster is basically unharmed. Thor just smirks, acknowledging that this thing has been outsmarting people for 2 years. It is no idiot. So he lays out the new plan. He will cast Fire Veil, but she needs to switch to an Ice Veil right before impact. She's a little confused by the sudden change in tactics, not quite getting the strategy, but Thor just tells her they are out of time and need to move now. With a confident little smile, she just says understood, ready to trust him completely. Her eyes narrow with focus as she confirms she is ready to execute the plan. Once again, her sword is wreathed in flames, and Thor stacks even more speed buffs on her. She launches herself forward, hoping the waterlogged tree will be too slow to counter this time. This giant treant just laughs, its whole trunk glowing with purple malice as Riene flies in for the attack. Thor deadpans that a monster laughing at you is a bad sign, but reporting it would be even worse for his reputation. As she closes in, the tree unleashes a wave of water to counter her flaming sword. It is totally ready for her. Riene realizes it was bait, screaming for the professor as the treant's clever defense kicks in. A flash of Thor's darker side appears, coldly saying too bad as he prepares a counterspell of his own. But back to normal Thor, who is thinking there is no way a university professor is getting outsmarted by a plant. He immediately casts a switching spell, transforming her enchantment mid-flight from Fire Veil to Ice Veil. In a flash of blue light, Riene's flaming sword becomes a blade of pure, crackling ice. Our boy smirks, knowing he just pulled off a master-level technique with a tiny success rate like it was nothing. Riene is absolutely hyped, yelling, "That is awesome," as she aims her new ice weapon at the monster. With a powerful two-handed grip, she brings the frozen blade down with everything she has got. This ice-infused slash cuts through the air, leaving a trail of frigid energy in its wake. Her attack lands perfectly, and the ice instantly spreads across the treant's water-soaked bark. Thor's brilliant plan is revealed: lure out the water, then flash freeze the whole thing to paralyze it. But he is not done, immediately preparing another switching spell for the final blow. Just as the ice sets, he switches her sword asterisk back to Fire Veil, much to Riene's utter confusion. She can only gasp his name, completely lost by the sudden and bizarre tactical shift. With its roots frozen solid, the treant cannot summon water, leaving its core wide open for a fiery finish. A massive inferno erupts from within the monster, which can only roar as it is cooked from the inside out. Riene is thrown back by the blast, admitting that a flame this powerful is way beyond her own abilities. Riene is just floored, admitting his support magic alone was more than enough to nuke the thing. Meanwhile, Thor collapses, completely drained after juggling so many high-level spells at once. He still smirks, thinking it has been a while since he actually got to fight a monster, even as support. As Riene rushes over to praise him, he just welcomes her back like it was a walk in the park. She is completely flustered, trying to insist that he was the one who did everything. Thor just laughs it off, waving to the villagers who are now running toward them to celebrate, but they are all cheering for Rina totally blown away by her incredible sword skills. This sends her into a full-blown panic, desperately trying to deflect all the credit back to her professor. This villagers just look at the exhausted guy on the ground and figure he must be her overworked assistant. Begging him to say something, Riene gets trolled as Thor just compliments her again, enjoying this way too much. Her brain completely short-circuits, stammering nonsense as she fails to process the situation. Changing the subject, Thor formally apologizes to the chief for, destroying their sacred tree. He explains the burnt-out husk is now unstable and needs to be taken down before it crushes something important. With a heavy heart, the chief agrees and gives the order to chop down what remains of their landmark. This villagers all watch on, looking absolutely heartbroken to lose their 1,000-year-old symbol. So the whole town grabs their axes and gets to work, hacking away at the smoldering trunk. With a final crash, the massive burning tree topples over in a huge cloud of smoke and embers. Afterwards, the villagers thank them for helping with the cleanup and making sure no one got hurt. This chief then apologizes, saying the reward for the quest feels way too small for what they accomplished. But Thor just waves it off, casually mentioning he gets a nice stipend from Princess Alina herself. This chief insists they take a reward anyway, all the ash and charcoal from the now incinerated landmark. And it turns out that sacred tree ash is a super rare ingredient that sells for the price of gold. Thor immediately stops him, saying he has a better idea and will cast a growth spell on the ash instead. He gives them a charming smile, insisting the tree's remains should be used to help the village it protected. With the chief completely speechless, Thor just frames the whole thing as a donation for reconstruction. Then he prepares to cast the spell, humbly claiming nature magic is not his specialty, so it might be weak. What a liar. Riene uses the moment to ask a key question. In the 2 years it was a treant, it never actually attacked anyone. Thor theorizes the tree's original will was so strong it was actively resisting the monster's instincts. This realization hits the villagers hard. Their sacred tree was protecting them even after being corrupted. Overcome with gratitude, the chief and another villager start praying to the smoldering remains. With their job finally done, Thor and Riene wave goodbye and head out of the village. Back in town, the chief is just remarking on what a genuinely helpful pair of adventurers they were. But right on cue, a villager comes sprinting over in a full-blown panic about something in the fields. He points to where Thor sprinkled the ash, and tiny glowing green sprouts are already pushing through the soil. They are all losing their minds because it has been less than 10 minutes and the plants are growing before their very eyes. This chief and the others can only stare, their jaws practically on the ground in disbelief. And of course, they immediately declare it a miracle, a final blessing from their fallen sacred tree. Meanwhile, walking down the road, Riene is radiating some seriously dark and frustrated energy. Thor just strolls on ahead, completely oblivious to the thundercloud of resentment brewing behind him. She's just fuming that she is the one getting all the praise when her professor did all the actual work. Riene's having a full-on meltdown, realizing the plan for Thor to get famous just went up in smoke. Convinced she's just getting in his way, she offers a quiet and defeated apology. But Thor, ever the smooth operator, apologizes for making her stay overnight without asking first. Her mood does a complete 180, eagerly declaring she'd welcome a sleepover anytime, zero shame. He was just worried she was brooding, a fact that sends her into an internal happy dance. She tries to play it cool, claiming his support magic just left her a little exhausted, not overexcited. To prove her point, she immediately zaps him with a fatigue relief spell all green and sparkly. He just brushes off her thanks, saying it was the least he could do for his student. As they walk, Riene is already mapping out his entire political career based on that miracle fertilizer. Her grand scheme involves getting him ennobled, recognized, and then of course married to her. Meanwhile, in a completely different dungeon, some poor knight is getting absolutely pummeled. He's barely hanging on, his only thought being whether his comrades manage to escape safely. Totally surrounded, he accepts his fate, wishing just one more person was there to help him. Back at the academy, a new day begins with a shot of the grand, sunlit campus. Thor lets out a massive yawn, only for Riene to pop up right beside him to tease him. She is absolutely beaming with energy, pumped to do her best for another day with the professor. Not even 5 minutes later, all that energy has vanished, replaced by a gloomy, exhausted aura. Seeing her looking so wiped, Thor gently suggests she should probably take a day off to rest. She insists she could go forever as long as she is with him, but then she spots him out a window. And now she is left wondering why on earth he is heading toward the Royal Guard quarters. Riene is just silently stewing in the background, her entire world imploding over this PR disaster. Meanwhile, Thor's just skipping along, thinking his vacation plans are all sorted out, zero awareness. Inside the Royal Guard quarters, he is a little stressed, wondering what he is supposed to do now. Because the free mission board is completely, embarrassingly empty. A nearby family asks if he is another court mage looking for free work, which just confuses him, and they explain everyone's trying to impress Princess Alina now that she is back, some even hoping to marry her. This triggers a very awkward flashback to Alina's own proposal, making our boy sweat bullets. This gossip then turns to a mage named Luna, who is suddenly working hard for some reason. Apparently, the supposed genius is just salty about losing a practice match to some newbie. They also mention a knight named Boldas, the type to abandon his comrades without a second thought. But Thor's attention snaps into focus when he hears a rookie named Mia was sent to a C-rank dungeon. He immediately asks for more details, and the guys just tell him to go check on her if he is so worried. Thor tries to brush it off as a needless worry, but his expression says he has already decided. Turns out the scumbag knight Boldas invited Mia on this mission, which is way too dangerous for a rookie. This dungeon is near Ulian village and is proving way tougher than its C-rank suggests. In fact, this easy dungeon has already claimed the lives of over 20 adventurers. So Thor immediately bolts, stacking every speed and stamina buff he knows while pulling a cart. He is blazing across the countryside, planning to reach the dungeon in under an hour. We get a quick lesson on dungeons. They are strongholds built by monsters around a central core. And that core continuously summons demons, threatening to overrun everything if not destroyed quickly. Thor knows this dungeon's body count means its C-rank is a complete and total lie. Arriving at Ulian village, he finds nothing but a deserted quarry, not a great sign. This professor quickly deduces the old artificial cave must be the dungeon's entrance. With a grim look, he prepares to dive into this mislabeled death trap to find Mia. Standing on a ridge, he thinks he is being stealthy but has a feeling he is not alone. So he activates his Orcus magic sight, his eyes flaring with blue energy to scan the area. And what he sees is a familiar silhouette surrounded by magic. Yep, that is Riene, the workaholic. He immediately panics, thinking she is here to report his pathetic magic to the princess. This thought of getting fired sends a jolt of pure terror through him. Priorities, people. Determined to restore his honor, our boy bolts toward the dungeon entrance at top speed. Of course, Riene is right behind him, totally winded and complaining about his insane pace. Inside the entrance, Thor confirms the old mine looks completely abandoned and derelict. While a C-rank should be a solo job, he knows these things can suddenly jump to a rank without warning. He then notices Riene is still following him but just shrugs it off, figuring she can handle herself. Heading into the darkness, he casts night vision, his eyes glowing once again. His magic sight picks up human mana signatures down a straight tunnel, the man-made part of the cave. He zips through the simple passage, heading deeper into the dungeon's core. But he skids to a halt when he finds pieces of shattered armor littering the ground. Bad news. His glowing eye narrows as he realizes the dungeon's inhabitants have already spotted him. And just like that, he is face to face with two hulking suits of living armor standing over fallen knights. Thor immediately judges the last party, noting they were too inexperienced to finish the job. All around him are more suits of damaged armor, just waiting to get back up for round 2. He is not worried about the 5 enemies, but it is a terrible sign for the rookies who came before him. We get a quick lesson on living armor. They are just spirits possessing metal, basically angry ghosts in a can. This means just smashing the armor is completely useless, as some poor saps found out the hard way. Unless you exorcise the spirit inside, they will just keep reviving, so Thor preps a little something special. From the shadows, Riene notes this is literally Adventure 101, and she is not impressed with the other knights. Right on cue, the armor lurches back to life and charges straight for our boy. But Thor's already 5 steps ahead, casually prepping 5 simultaneous immobilization spells, no big deal. Riene's jaw absolutely hits the floor from her hiding spot, her brain failing to compute. With a flash of purple light, all 5 suits of armor are instantly frozen solid in midair. Next up, he prepares 5 holy light spells to hit their weakness and end this for good. Beams of golden energy pierce right through the helmets, targeting the spirits inside. One by one, the other suits of armor are zapped and neutralized with pinpoint accuracy. As the metal husks crash to the floor, Thor just complains about all the noise they are making. He casually dusts off his shoulders like he just took out the trash, zero effort expended. Now he is seriously worried, wondering how Mia could possibly be safe if her party could not handle this warm-up. Meanwhile, Renee is still processing the absolute magical flex she just witnessed. Her mind is blown, top mages struggle with dual casting, and he just quintuple casted 3 times in a row. Standing in the aftermath, she is just gushing, completely convinced her professor is the most special person alive. Renee is just watching him, completely starstruck and convinced he is the coolest person alive. Suddenly, a flash of light erupts from deeper within the dungeon's halls. And we see a different panicked mage casting holy light to reveal some hidden threat. Back with Thor, he notes the lack of battle scars, guessing the last party just ran for their lives. He picks up the pace, already knowing the kind of disaster he is about to find. Turns out this area is full of wisps, invisible spirits that are a total nightmare for non-magic users. Inexperienced parties tend to just freak out and scream at their mage to make the spooky ghosts appear. As Thor moves forward, he is thinking about how easily party morale can shatter under this kind of pressure. He is just praying Mia's group did not descend into a total blame game. But of course they did. Boldas is yelling at his mage to cast faster, being a fantastic leader. This guy even claims he'd be better off alone, which is a hilarious lie for someone who cannot see his own enemies. Boldas then calls for a tactical retreat, ordering everyone to work together to create an opening. Just as their poor mage is about to get sliced in half by a suit of living armor, because their tank and leader, Boldas, is already sprinting for the exit, abandoning his entire team. Thor knows this means the rest of the party is done for, so he prepares a little long-distance intervention. This terrified mage is suddenly shocked to see all the wisps perfectly revealed by a holy light spell. At the same moment, the living armor freezes solid mid-swing, leaving the knights totally confused. Thor just strolls in, casting a fatigue relief spell and telling them the coast is clear to leave now. He immediately asks for Mia, only to learn she is acting as a decoy so these cowards could escape. With a calm "I understand," Thor delivers a swift kick to one of the knights. Patience has officially left the building. This rescued knights are completely stunned, deciding to just book it and thank their mystery savior later. One of them realizes this guy might actually be able to save Mia and takes off with a sliver of hope. Thor, meanwhile, is just calmly assessing the situation, totally unfazed by the chaos. He reaches a fork in the path, but his mana sense is useless since both tunnels show recent traffic, so he activates Hawkeye, his vision flaring gold for some high-level magical forensics. This new sight reveals faint droplets of sweat down the right path, a dead giveaway for a party in trouble. Knowing he is on the right track, our boy bolts down the corridor, racing against the clock to find Mia. Deeper inside, we hear desperate panting from behind a heavy stone door. It is Mia, completely surrounded by living armor and just about at her limit. As she looks for an escape, a wisp's attack sigil flares to life right above her head. This blast of dark magic slams into her shield, the force of it nearly overwhelming her. She knows it is an invisible wisp, the kind of enemy that makes dungeons a total nightmare. Her body is screaming in protest, her mace and shield feeling heavier with every passing second. With her last torch about to burn out, she is ready to accept her fate in the darkness. But then a voice roars her name through the dungeon, and it is the professor himself. A storm of green support magic hits her, buffing her defense and washing away her exhaustion. Instantly re-energized, she deflects a massive hammer blow that should have flattened her. Mia is in total shock, her mace feels light as a feather and the attack bounced right off. From a distance, Thor's hand glows as he prepares to make all her invisible problems visible. And suddenly the air is swarming with angry red wisps, revealing just how screwed she really was. Thor zips past Mia, telling her to ignore the invisible wisps and just handle the big guys. He calmly asks her to focus on neutralizing the living armor, a simple question with huge stakes. With a shout of renewed determination, Mia accepts the mission, ready to prove herself. She charges forward, shield raised, while Thor provides magical support from the backline. Their enemies are no joke, with dark magic sigils and wisp attacks filling the air. This two of them fight back-to-back, forming a surprisingly effective and coordinated team. While Mia smashes an armored knight to pieces, Thor casually dispatches another threat behind her. Elsewhere, Renee finally catches up, completely winded and asking for a timeout before she can help. This battle ends with the room covered in scrap metal and Mia totally collapsed from exhaustion. Thor just congratulates her on a job well done as she can barely gasp out his name. Her mind is just reeling, wondering how in the world her professor found her in this death trap. He explains he heard she was with a dangerous guy and got worried, playing it super cool. This sends Mia into a blushing spiral, asking if he really came all this way just for her. Our boy, completely oblivious, just says yeah and checks her for injuries, missing the mood entirely. She clutches her chest from the emotional overload, and he immediately panics, thinking she is hurt. From her hiding spot, Renee sees this rom-com unfolding and decides her assistance is definitely not needed. But their moment is cut short when Thor spots the leftover wisp mana starting to move on its own. He asks Mia if she is ready for round 2, completely derailing her romantic daydream. Snapped back to reality, she quickly agrees to fight even though she has no clue what is coming. And what is coming is all the shattered armor pieces reanimating into a brand new shadowy horror. Thor immediately shoves Mia behind him, telling her to step back as the shadowy horror takes form. All the leftover wisp energy gets sucked toward the back of the room and Mia is totally lost. He explains this monster has been eating the souls of fallen adventurers, which is why the dungeon felt so empty. and out of the darkness a massive blood-soaked scythe materializes. This is not going to be fun. Mia is absolutely losing it, realizing this thing is way above this dungeon's pay grade. This full monster reveals itself, a skeletal Grim Reaper thing called a Death Eater, just lovely. She rightfully freaks out, screaming that a monster this powerful should never appear in a C-rank dungeon. Even terrified, she is already planning a tactical retreat, asking Thor for support magic to create an opening. Our boy is just beaming with pride, thinking her calm judgment under fire is seriously impressive. Shaking off his proud teacher moment, he asks her to use that sharp judgment to scout the back of the room. She turns her attention to the shadows, where the Death Eater is just waiting to strike. Suddenly, Thor shouts a warning, calling out a scythe attack coming from the upper left. Perfect intel. With his call-out, she instantly raises her shield, casting a defense spell just in time to block the blow. This massive scythe crashes into her shield with enough force to shatter a lesser knight. She struggles under the immense pressure but thinks she can hold on, comparing it to her old master's training. Sparks fly as the demonic weapon grinds against her magically reinforced shield in a pure test of will. Even the Death Eater seems surprised they are not just running but actually holding their ground. Mia puts it all together. This soul-eating monstrosity is the true dungeon boss guarding the core. Thor agrees, adding that since it gets stronger with every kill, they have to finish this right now. He gives her a confidence boost, saying with her tanking and his support, they have got a real shot at winning this. Thor asks Mia if she is willing to trust his assessment, putting the whole fight on her shoulders. Without a single shred of doubt, she immediately agrees, completely ready to follow his lead. Her absolute faith in him catches Thor off guard, and he gives a genuinely touched smile. He lays out the strategy. Mia needs to play bait while he figures out how to shred the monster's magic-proof robe. She even asks for another speed buff, insisting she has the stamina to handle the strain. With a flash of gold and purple, Thor juices her up with fleet foot and acceleration spells. Now moving at super speed, Mia zips around taunting the misty skeleton to come get some. Our boy almost gets distracted by her creative naming choices before remembering he needs a weapon. This Death Eater responds to her taunt by raising a massive bone club to smash her flat. Seeing this, Thor immediately casts an immovability spell to keep her from getting launched into next week. That club connects with her shield in a massive impact, but she miraculously holds her ground. From the backline, Thor starts giving her live combat coaching on which attacks to take. He tells her to deflect the big two-handed swings instead of trying to tank them head-on. Suddenly, a lesson from her old master clicks into place. Her defense has always been too rigid. Now she finally understands how to handle overwhelming force, adjusting her stance for a parry. And it works perfectly. She deflects the attack, leaving the Death Eater completely stunned. This monster rears back, clearly furious that its little toy is not breaking so easily. It follows up with a sloppy, one-handed swing, leaving itself totally unbalanced. Mia's eyes narrow as she spots the critical opening in its attack pattern. She shoves her shield forward, ready to parry the blow and create a chance to counter. With her confidence soaring, Mia steels herself to face the oversized skeleton. She knows with Thor's buffs and coaching, she actually stands a chance against this thing. From the back, Thor is just beaming with pride at her talent but worries the monster will adapt. And yep, the Death Eater is already giving her the stink eye, clearly tired of this game. It starts gathering some nasty purple magic, but Thor's already got a counterplan in mind. He is absolutely not letting this thing lay a single bony finger on his student. Thor tells her to just keep it busy a little longer, and she is more than happy to oblige. He then casts a few speed spells on himself, getting ready to jump into the fight. Mia immediately starts taunting the bony cloak, doing a fantastic job as the world's most annoying bait. She even asks if it is trying its best, which is a surefire way to piss off a dungeon boss. Suddenly, Thor blazes past, admitting he is not great with swords but still slicing up its robe. This Death Eater looks down in shock, not expecting the support mage to go on the offensive. To keep its attention divided, Mia swings her mace and continues her world-class trash talk. Now they are both yelling at it, with Thor calling it a dungeon dog. The disrespect is real. He tells Mia he is about to end this, asking her to just hold on for one more push. This poor monster is totally confused, its focus split between the annoying tank and the robe-shredding mage. Seeing its attention shift to Thor, Mia's protective instincts kick in with a vengeance. Thor, meanwhile, is charging up his sword with holy magic, telling her he is counting on her support. That holy energy immediately puts the Death Eater on high alert. It knows this next attack is serious. And with his weapon glowing, Thor calls it out, daring the monster to charge him head-on. Thor sees the monster's telegraphed attack, a perfect setup for Mia's knockback counter. With a furious roar, she meets the scythe head-on, putting every ounce of her training into the block. This impact sends her flying backwards, but that is exactly the opening Thor was waiting for. And our boy comes crashing down from above, holy sword aimed right at the Death Eater's skull. His blade plunges straight through its head, and the monster lets out an unholy shriek. After the dust settles, he immediately checks on Mia, who thankfully confirms she is okay. This Death Eater's body crumbles into a pile of scrap, and Thor just apologizes for the tough fight. Mia gets all emotional, insisting she would have been a goner without him and was just happy to help. Looking down, Thor notices the sword he used is now completely shattered from the holy power. He picks up the hilt, guessing it was a relic from one of the poor adventurers the monster ate. That grim thought sobers Mia up, and Thor suggests they loot the place before destroying the core. Suddenly, the monster's remains dissolve into beautiful motes of light, which Thor explains are purified souls. They just stand there for a moment, watching the surprisingly pretty end to a soul-eating nightmare. Outside, the dungeon entrance erupts in a massive flash of pink energy as the whole place collapses. A single boot steps out from the swirling magical chaos, emerging from the disappearing dungeon. And it is our heroes walking out as Thor calmly notes this is a pretty tame dungeon discharge. He then gives a quick lecture on dungeon destruction. People usually get out, but loot can get lost. Mia is just geeking out, witnessing her first dungeon disappearance and calling it super convenient. Thor decides they should rest, then realizes their chaperone Reuniting has completely vanished at some point. Elsewhere, Reuniting is having a full-blown panic attack over her job performance next to the dead adventurers. After all that, Mia just kneels down, apologizing for being useless again. Thor immediately shuts that down, asking who fed her that nonsense as she explains her self-doubt. With a soft smile, he tells her he is not so sure about that assessment. He lays it on thick, saying her shield skills were mesmerizing and vital to their win. That one word completely short-circuits her brain, but Thor senses someone coming their way. And right on cue, a whole cavalry thunders up to the collapsed dungeon entrance. A blonde knight on a majestic horse calls a halt, announcing they have found their target and she is safe. Some folks in a cart are just relieved, but the knight seems absolutely floored she is alive. He rides up to confirm she is safe, and Mia just apologizes for all the fuss. This guy just stares, a mix of relief and something much harder to read on his face. She is still spiraling, promising to work harder to make up for her failure in the core. He gives her the company line about protecting their own, so no need to feel indebted. Then he asks the million-dollar question, did they destroy the core, and she points right at Thor. Our boy tries to downplay it, saying he just assisted Mia, which earns him a protest. They get into a cute "no, it was you" argument while the knight just watches unimpressed. Another knight, Boldus, gets called out. Mia's story does not match his report at all. And look who it is, the guys who abandoned her, looking shocked, and one with a busted nose. Thor instantly recognizes them from before, putting two and two together about what really happened. This commander turns on Boldus, demanding to know why his report said she deserted them. Boldus stammers that an E-rank could not survive alone, basically admitting he left her for dead. One of Boldus's cronies points at the boss loot, accusing Mia of using them to make money. With a truly punchable grin, he insists Thor must be her accomplice in this imaginary crime. This other knights just find this whole display hilarious, openly laughing at the ridiculous accusation. Their commander looks absolutely exhausted by the stupidity, confirming Boldus is sticking to his lies. His two lackeys immediately start backtracking, claiming they reported everything exactly as it was. Boldus grabs one of them, trying to shut him up before the commander steps in to end the squabble. With eyes glowing with authority, he fires Boldus on the spot for filing a false report and being a disgrace. He then addresses the other two, noting their honesty about abandoning Mia means they will just get punished later. As Boldus gets dragged away kicking and screaming, the commander finally turns his full attention to Thor. This guy immediately bows, offering a heartfelt apology for the absolute disaster his knights have been. He takes full responsibility for everything, from Boldus's rudeness to the danger Mia was in. Thor, ever the humble mage, just asks him to please raise his head, clearly uncomfortable with the formality. When the commander offers to repay him through actions, Thor just says he does not need that either. But then our boy gets a clever look, admitting he does have one small request he'd like to make. A little while later, Mia asks Thor if what he did back there was really okay. He thinks she's talking about walking instead of riding, but she quickly clarifies that is not her concern. Turns out his request was for the knights to act as a delivery service for the fallen adventurers' relics. This commander is completely baffled, asking if Thor is sane for giving up the potential rewards from the families. Mia is just trying not to giggle, thinking it is the first time she has ever seen the commander so flustered. Thor simply explains that using the royal guard is more efficient since they have a relationship with the guild. Mia explains she'd rather walk with him since riding with the knights means sharing a carriage with Boldus, hard pass. Besides, she admits there was something she really wanted to talk to him about. He is a little confused, but she clarifies it is a consultation that only he can help her with. Gathering all her courage, she asks him to please teach her support magic. She specifically wants to learn his speed spells, finally admitting that her lack of mobility is a huge weakness. Our boy is so moved by her request he starts crying literal anime waterfalls. He has got a student. Her first reaction is to panic, but he quickly reassures her he is just incredibly happy. Getting way too close for comfort, he promises to teach her everything, which completely fries her circuits. He immediately starts nerding out about preparing a curriculum while Mia's soul is still trying to find its way back to her body. Thor guarantees that with his magic, she will be strong enough to never have to tremble in anger at rude people again. She is just buzzing with excitement, completely on board with this new power-up plan. Mia then recalls him laughing at Boldus's pathetic excuses, admitting she was trying not to laugh too. With Thor already talking about textbooks, the new master-student duo happily walks off together. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in a forest, a woman's hand touches a tree as she realizes she is lost. She's getting super frustrated, muttering about how there is absolutely nothing around. This genius mage, Luna, absolutely refuses to admit she is lost. The denial is strong with this one. Back in the city, we cut to a glorious, steaming plate of delicious-looking skewers. Mia and a white-haired professor are chowing down, raving about how good the food is. This professor asks Thor if he liked the meal, but our boy is already slumped over the table looking defeated. Clutching his stomach in pain, Thor explains this whole energetic meal is the result of events from a few hours ago. Back in the capital, Mia works up the courage to ask Thor to dinner as a thank you. He explains he is new to the city and does not know any restaurants, which she immediately misinterprets as rejection. But just then, a new voice chimes in, asking if she can join their little outing. It is the white-haired professor who confidently declares she will be their guide to the capital's best food. This brings us back to the present, with Thor watching the professor crying her eyes out for some reason. Turns out she got absolutely hammered listening to their dungeon story and is now passed out on the table. Thor tries to steer the conversation away from his own heroics, mentioning Mia wants to learn support magic. That news immediately sobers the professor up, who is suddenly very interested in this development. Mia explains she used to think support magic was for the weak and went against the spirit of chivalry. Both Thor and the professor erupt in agreement that this is the most ridiculous take they have ever heard. Thor launches into a passionate speech about how only an idiot would call ability enhancement lazy. This whole atmosphere makes him a little nostalgic, reminding him of some other nobles he knew, and we get a quick flashback to his old days sharing a meal with the hero's party. After a satisfying dinner, the group finally decides it is time to head back for the night. This professor and Mia are walking ahead, still buzzing from the good food and conversation. Our boy Thor, however, is lagging behind, clutching his stomach as the greasy food wages war on his insides. Their path takes them past a huge statue dedicated to the legendary hero Alan. Mia suddenly remembers Thor was in his party and bombards him with questions about what the hero was like. He gives the classic squeaky clean answer: brave, noble, a true hero, and a good guy. And Mia is just eating it all up, completely starstruck by the tale of her idol. But the professor is not buying the squeaky clean story about the hero's party for a second. She's got one burning question: if Alan was so great, why did he banish his support mage Thor? Staring up at the hero's statue, she figures they will never get the real story out of him. In her mind, there is no way Thor was at fault, so there must be some deeper conspiracy at play. And she just gazes at the monument to a so-called hero, lost in thought under the moonlight. This next morning, things are already happening at a ridiculously fancy estate. Thor is staring at a mountain of Death Eater loot, wondering where Mia's cut of the profits went. Turns out the blonde commander is explaining the deal. The Night Corps took credit but is giving Thor half the armor sets. This guy is literally crying, begging Thor to accept so his own captain will not yell at him. What a pushover. Then the professor shows up, ready for breakfast, while Thor is just surprised anyone else is awake this early. Our boy admits he does not even need the money from the monster parts, which is a nice problem to have. So the professor gets a brilliant idea: why not use the materials to craft some new gear? Thor is immediately on board, remembering his uniform got absolutely trashed after less than a week. He is already geeking out over the Death Eater's cloak, planning how to boost its magic resistance. Their little field trip takes them to a custom equipment specialty shop in the city. Inside, a sleazy-looking manager says a new robe is easy, but reforging the scythe is impossible. Both Thor and the professor are completely baffled by this, their faces literally splitting in confusion. This guy explains the scythe is made of Demon King steel, an ore they have no idea how to work with. But the old master craftsman is not giving up, saying he will at least try to forge a handle for it. Thor just looks at the massive weapon, realizing its size is a problem, and now he is stuck on the word firepower. Thor gets a brilliant look, explaining they do not need a fire mage, just a way to superheat the furnace. This master craftsman is intrigued by this idea, giving our boy full access to the workshop. Standing before the massive furnace, Thor says his plan should work in theory, but he will have to test it. He then lays out a 3-step magic nerd process involving purging mana and using a special fuel. With a massive flash, the furnace ignites with a blindingly bright flame, shocking everyone. This Demon King steel is finally red hot, and the master craftsman screams for his crew to start forging. As his team hammers away, Thor just watches with a smug, satisfied smirk. Problem solved. After a long day of work, the sun finally begins to set over the city, and Thor is practically drooling over the incredible sword they forged from the scythe's materials. This craftsman is overjoyed by his reaction, and Thor thanks him for getting it done in half a day. With his entire crew passed out from exhaustion, the old man admits they cannot do this again without Thor's magic. This professor asks if Thor wields a sword, but he clarifies his is just for self-defense. Overcome with emotion, the craftsman gushes about how great their matching new robes look. This professor teases that he is making them sound like a married couple, which gets a flustered reaction. She is so happy with her new outfit she says she'd even sleep in it. But then she feels guilty, insisting she should pay since she did not help fight the Death Eater. Thor just plays it cool, telling her she has helped him enough and to let him show off a little. Blushing, she accepts the gift, telling him he is cool even without trying to act it. With their new gear equipped, the two happily walk off to find a good noodle place for dinner. This next day, the professor checks the court mage mission board, noting a few quests are still available. This professor mentions a powerful mage named Luna has been snatching up all the good quests lately. But at the guild, they learn Luna has not actually returned from her last subjugation request. That means she's been missing for 2 or 3 days, which immediately sets off alarm bells. Her last known mission was tracking a huge beast in a forest so vast even locals get lost in it. Someone jokes that with her temper, she will probably just burn the whole forest down to find her way home, yikes. So now they are in that very forest, with the professor worrying while Thor thinks it is all a bit much. As they head deeper into the woods, he just casually remarks how nice and lively it is. This professor, however, points out that no villagers have dared enter this place for a week straight, and the reason is pretty obvious. It is because of that massive beast from Luna's quest. Thor figures the lack of people will make finding Luna easier while the professor is just trying to catch her breath. He suddenly stops, pointing out a strange magical haze on a nearby tree that she cannot quite see. Our boy tells her to try using magic sight to get a clearer look at what he is seeing. With a flash of blue light, the professor activates her magic sight, her eyes glowing with power. And there it is, a glowing purple X marking the spot where Luna left the path and went deeper. Following the trail, Thor quizzes her on the support magic tips for tracking he taught her. This professor is practically buzzing with excitement, ready to show off what she has learned. She immediately puts it into practice, using a combination of magic sight and enhanced vision to navigate. Thor watches her, internally admitting her skills are already so good he barely even needs to teach her anymore. It is a bittersweet moment for him, but the trail of magical breadcrumbs suddenly stops right here. And just beyond, they find a massive patch of scorched earth. Looks like Luna finally found her monster. Thor surveys the absolute mess, realizing Luna did not just burn things, she went full-on elemental chaos mode. Just ahead, the professor spots a gnarly blood trail, and Thor confirms it is definitely not human. She figures Luna got tunnel vision, chasing the kill instead of leaving markers, a classic rookie mistake. Seeing the claw marks on a tree, Thor decides they are following this bloody breadcrumb trail. Their pursuit takes them deeper into the woods, following the gruesome trail of monster blood. Suddenly, Thor halts the search, crouching down because something feels very wrong here. This blood trail just ends cold with no body, and he notes how strangely bright this spot is. They look up to find the thick canopy shattered, meaning something massive just busted through it. Our boy lays out the options. Either the beast flew away or a bigger, meaner one swooped in for a snack. He immediately dismisses the predator theory since the dense canopy makes aerial hunting nearly impossible. That leaves the worst possibility. The monster called its friends and Luna got jumped mid-chase. Which leads to the stunning conclusion, delivered in chibi form, there is a high chance she is lost. This professor starts to sweat, but Thor's just like it is fine, admitting he skipped the lesson on not getting lost. But he immediately flexes that he knows scout magic, so do not worry, earning some serious hero worship from the professor. Since they are at a dead end, Thor suggests a mana release to signal Luna, a term she has never heard. He explains it is not really a spell, just literally releasing mana, simple stuff. She connects the dots, it is a magic flare, but also a giant dinner bell for any nearby monsters. He is not worried, confident Luna will sense it, plus he has got the professor here to handle any party crashers. Totally fired up, the professor is ready for a fight, giving Thor the green light to do his thing. He then concentrates, preparing to cast his mana out like a massive, invisible net across the forest. With a massive surge of power, Thor unleashes his mana in a huge, sweeping wave across the forest. He immediately recognizes the professor's gentle mana signature, a familiar feeling from her support spells. His own energy spirals outwards, a brilliant blue beacon searching through the dense woods. And in the sky above, the mana coalesces into a massive signal flare just as he planned. A response comes from the northeast, and without a second's hesitation, they are off. This two of them are just blurs as they rocket through the trees, closing the distance in an instant. As they near a clearing, Thor warns the professor to stay on guard for whatever's ahead. They burst out of the forest to find their missing mage, Luna, collapsed by a sad little campfire. Luna looks up, completely flustered and shocked to see two strangers suddenly appear out of nowhere. Still on the ground, she just stares up at them, demanding to know why they are even here. Thor immediately kneels to check on her, but she just tells him to shut up and leave her alone, so much for gratitude. But our boy notices her complexion is absolutely terrible, a clear sign she is not just tired. He then spots the culprit, a barely cooked mushroom skewer, meaning she poisoned herself like a total rookie. As Thor casts a healing spell, she tries to wave him off, insisting she can handle it herself. This green light of his magic washes over her and she is visibly surprised as her color returns. He explains that simple healing will not work on mushroom poison, earning a very reluctant thanks from her. Now that she is not dying, Luna gets right back to being aggressive, grabbing him and repeating her question. Her eyes widen in sudden realization as if she just remembered something awful. This professor steps in, asking the very same question, why is she in a place like this asterisk? And the camera pulls back to reveal they are all standing on the edge of a terrifyingly massive chasm. Luna's terrified scream echoes as a massive red dragon descends from the sky, so much for a simple rescue. A quick lore drop explains dragons are basically civilization-ending disasters that command other monsters. This professor asks the obvious question, and Luna frantically denies she was fighting a dragon, looking absolutely panicked. Even the professor knows dragons are rank threats, and Thor just notes how level-headed Luna is being peak sarcasm. She insists she was just chasing a lizard, completely oblivious to the giant winged reptile soaring overhead. Before they can process that, a different, much uglier lizard monster lunges right for her face. A brilliant flash of light cuts through the air, intercepting the attack in a split second, and the monster is instantly sliced in half, leaving Luna completely stunned by the sudden save. This professor explains it was probably a relative of the beast Luna was hunting, but our girl is just stuck on how it died in one hit. Her eyes widen in horror at the mention of a pack, because of course it is never just one. Looking up, they realize they are completely surrounded by the lizard's angry family members. Overcome with guilt, Luna offers to sacrifice herself to create an escape route for them, taking the blame for the mess. Thor immediately shuts that down, telling the professor to take the main target while he provides support. He tells Luna not to worry about the professor, who is already crouching and powering up to handle the mob. With incredible speed, the professor dives into the fray, taking on the smaller lizards herself. Meanwhile, Thor tells a still panicking Luna that they will handle the dragon, completely ignoring her protests. He points out it is just a juvenile, so while it is reckless for one person, it is not impossible for two. Just as he says they can win by cooperating, he shoves her back, yelling about an incoming breath attack. Luna immediately gets it, powering up her staff for a long-range duel. She is not backing down from a magic fight. This dragon unleashes a torrent of fire, met head-on by Luna's massive beam of magical energy. This dragon's fire breath is a massive roaring inferno clashing directly with Luna's spell, and their magic beams collide in a spectacular explosion of raw, untamed power. She has got that main character energy, absolutely refusing to back down from a dragon duel. Our boy just calmly psychoanalyzes them both, pointing out they are basically the same hot-headed kid. While the dragon charges another breath attack, Luna screams at him to run, but he is busy philosophizing. Luna scrambles to cast a shield, admitting her mana is not refined enough to stop the blast. Her plan is to deflect it, yelling at Thor to jump on her signal, a solid last-ditch effort. But Thor just shuts that down, coolly telling her to maintain the shield as is. With a quick chant, he reinforces her flimsy barrier with a thick layer of ice magic. Her mind is just blown. She had no idea support magic could even do that, and the fire blast hits their reinforced shield, creating a massive but totally ineffective explosion. After the smoke clears, Thor explains the juvenile dragon cannot spam breath attacks, giving them a breather. He points out it is already circling to build up mana for another go, analyzing its every move. She is just stunned by its persistence, calling it stubborn for wanting a third round. In her frustration, she calls him a stubborn old man, then frantically clarifies she meant the dragon smooth. From the dragon's paw, they are just tiny targets, and Luna is mortified by her slip-up. Humbled, Luna finally admits he's got the brains for this, demanding to know his winning strategy. He starts the briefing, explaining dragon scales are naturally hard and block magic attacks. But every boss has a weak spot, and he points it out. The throat is their one shot. And right on cue, the dragon lets out a roar, showing off its glowing, very vulnerable throat. Luna points out the obvious problem. Hitting a tiny, moving target from this far away is insane. She finally swallows her pride, demanding he share his master plan and promising to listen for once. So Thor lays out his brilliant strategy, which basically amounts to just do this, so helpful. Meanwhile, the dragon circles back around, clearly not done with them yet. Luna agrees to his ridiculous bet, telling him he'd better be grateful for her trust. As the dragon charges up another fire breath, Thor just calmly tells her to stick to the plan. With the inferno incoming, our boy throws up a simple water veil to counter it. Somehow, that low-cost shield is holding back the dragon's full power, refined mana blast. And here is the trick. He is using a purge spell to disrupt its magic resistance and target its wings. His spell grounds the beast, forcing it into a clumsy glide and making its movements predictable. Thor gives her the signal, and Luna unleashes a massive lightning attack without hesitation. She fires off the bolt of pure energy, aiming straight for the dragon's now exposed throat. This attack lands perfectly, slamming into the weak spot with a spectacular explosion. Down goes the dragon, smoking and stunned from the perfectly executed 1-2 punch. Luna is absolutely losing her mind with excitement, totally geeking out over her own magic. But her victory lap is cut short as the dragon fires one last desperate breath attack, and it catches her completely off guard, engulfing her in a torrent of fire. Thor instantly shields her, blocking the blast with one hand while noting how stubborn dragons are. He has completely immobilized its wings, telling a shocked Luna to aim for the kill shot, but she is just staring in horror at his arm, realizing he took that entire blast for her. Thor tells a stunned Luna to get up and ready herself for the next round, because that massive dragon is still standing, smoking, and ready to attack again. He yells that he has already immobilized its wings, telling her to aim for the reverse scale. But she is completely freaking out, pointing at his arm where the fire breath hit him directly. He just repeats the order, trying to snap her out of her panic, get up and fight, and the dragon is not waiting around, looming over them with murderous intent. With a shout, Thor casts a binding spell, expanding its formula to hold the entire beast. This magic takes hold, but he knows it is a temporary fix against a target this huge. Straining, he yells for her to finish it, and she snaps back that she knows what to do. Luna finally focuses, gathering an insane amount of power into her staff for a lightning spell. Her firestorm crashes down from the sky, engulfing the trapped dragon in pure energy. This beast lets out a final, agonizing roar as the attack tears it apart. Smoking and defeated, the massive creature finally collapses to the ground. Luna can barely believe it, asking if they actually won, while Thor just smirks confidently. Their victory is confirmed as the dragon lies motionless in the dust. He even gives her a rare compliment, praising her impressive power as always. This praise immediately breaks her composure, leaving her blushing and speechless. Then she remembers his injury, grabbing his arm and insisting she will heal him. To her shock, his hand is perfectly fine, he just casually shielded himself with water magic. She is completely mortified, realizing she worried for nothing, and he just offers a confused apology. Flustered, Luna stammers that she is only going to say this once, so he'd better listen up. Thor immediately goes full troll, cupping his ear and asking her to speak louder. He cannot hear her tiny thank you. She furiously claims her ears are just ringing from her own thunder magic, a totally believable excuse. Then she has the nerve to blame him for not protecting her hearing, lecturing him on teamwork. The irony is staggering. As she offers to cast a healing spell, our boy just waves it off, saying it'll fix itself. Just then, the professor returns from her lizard-slaying spree and Thor celebrates their pristine victory. He immediately starts delegating the dragon butchering duties, leaving a very confused Luna out of the loop. This other two get right to work harvesting parts, and Thor assigns Luna to wash duty so glamorous. Still fuming, she mutters about how a genius should know to cast hearing protection on his allies. Meanwhile, the professor is casually ripping a fang out of the dragon's skull like it is nothing. Thor then signals for the cleanup crew he apparently had on standby because of course he did. A whole team of workers swarms the massive corpse, ready to dismantle it for every last valuable part. One of the workers calls out to Thor, having found something unusual while carving up the beast. This guy asks them to check it out, explaining something unfamiliar came out of the dragon's body. Thor's face drops in an instant. He knows this is not good news at all. Inside the dragon's remains is a glowing, crystal-like object, and the workers have no idea what it is. Both Thor and the professor recognize the horrifying truth. It is a small but undeniable dungeon core. He quickly tries to manage the situation, telling everyone to keep quiet about the discovery for now. Leaning in close, he tells Luna to act like an adult and understand the need for secrecy. And she gets it immediately, promising to keep her mouth shut to avoid causing a massive panic. This court mages take over the dragon situation, and Thor gets praised for how well he handles Luna, like a pet basically. Every last bit of the dragon is getting divvied up between guilds, from the scales to the meat. After a long day of paperwork and butchering, they finally head back into the city at night, and the whole team looks absolutely wrecked, completely drained from the fight and the aftermath. This professor complains that organizing the materials was more tiring than the actual battle. Thor explains that without their help, it would have taken a week and most of the loot would have rotted. Luna tries to argue it was not their responsibility, but she is walking right into a lecture. And the professor smugly explains that capable adults go above and beyond, patting herself on the back. This profound moment is immediately ruined by Thor getting a massive leg cramp. She instantly switches gears, offering to give him a foot massage back at his room, which he politely dodges. Unseen by the others, a worried Luna grips his sleeve, showing some genuine concern for once. He notices her and suggests a medicinal bathhouse, thinking she is just exhausted too. This kindness completely short-circuits her brain, leaving her stammering about gratitude and responsibility. She is so flustered she is practically glowing red under her hat, leaving Thor utterly confused. In a desperate move to change the subject, she grabs the professor and declares they are all going to the bathhouse. Our boy just smiles, completely aware of what is happening and letting her have her chaotic moment. With the awkwardness resolved, the tired trio finally walks through the city streets. Later, Thor gets some well-deserved relaxation time in a steamy hot spring, except it is a mixed bath and both Luna and the professor are there looking incredibly flustered. But his mind is on the dungeon core, a seat of power that a dragon should never have, hinting at a much bigger threat. Thor's relaxing bath is interrupted by some heavy thoughts on the Demon King's defeat. Because new dungeons are rare, but suddenly two boss-level ones pop up near the capital, and he is starting to suspect this is not a coincidence but someone's deliberate malice. Now he is just trying to figure out how to report a potential grand conspiracy without sounding crazy. These pieces are all there, powerful monsters, a hidden enemy, and the implications are massive. But after a quick change, he decides to just go for it and report his concerns immediately. He kneels before Princess Alina, carefully explaining his theory about the dungeon cores, and she completely trusts his judgment, immediately ordering a full investigation for the people's safety. Our boy is just so relieved to have competent leadership, unlike the drunken old fool from before. This next morning, the professor greets him cheerfully as he is staring out a window. He tells her he took her advice and went straight to the princess, who acted on it right away. This news sends the professor into a fit of joy. She is just so happy he praised her princess. With the dungeon situation being handled, Thor pivots to a free mission he has been eyeing. Of course, the professor immediately volunteers to join him because of course she does. They head over to the mission board, which is covered in requests related to the new dungeon threat. While there, he overhears some gossip about Luna's dragon fight, filing that info away. He then asks the professor which mission caught her eye, snapping her back to attention. She points out a seemingly simple request tacked onto the board, which cuts to a shot of a seriously ominous, swirling dark portal. This job is just investigating screams in the sewers, but Thor's instincts are already screaming trap. Thor explains the enemy's likely plan, targeting the capital's vast underground waterways to create a dungeon. This professor agrees it is a perfect spot, a huge, unmanageable maze right under everyone's feet. She adds that if monsters are hiding down here, the danger to the city is off the charts, and that is exactly why he is so sure, admitting he'd do the same if he were the villain. With a quick spell, she uses magic sight to scan the area but finds no immediate threats. They head into the sewers, which are surprisingly well kept for their age, though some parts are sealed. Our boy points out those sealed-off areas would be the perfect place for monsters to hide. He then gets a serious look, telling her there is something important he needs to say, which she immediately misinterprets as a love confession, getting all flustered in a sewer. Thor has to quickly clarify that no, they are just being followed from the shadows. She is totally clueless, wondering aloud which of her students might be stalking them for lessons. He can sense their followers are strong and magically concealed, so he decides to just ignore them. As they continue, Thor notes that their stalkers' movements do not seem hostile at all. This professor agrees to leave them be, figuring there is no harm in having an audience. This gets her all pumped, thinking she has fans wanting to learn her magic, and Thor just plays along. So the duo continues their spooky sewer tour, venturing deeper into the dark tunnels. She complains that a full search of this massive place would take half a day just to walk the perimeter. Thor agrees, estimating a proper sweep would take at least a couple of days. But then he spots a torchlight up ahead, realizing someone else is down in the tunnels. We hear voices from the torchbearers complaining that they have been looking around long enough. Turns out they're not alone, as a squad of knights is already down here complaining about finding nothing. Their leader immediately scolds them for their bad attitude, telling them to investigate more seriously. But her two subordinates are suddenly frozen in terror, looking right past her. She turns around, completely confused by their sudden panic, and finds Thor and the professor standing there like a horror movie jump scare, causing a full-on scream fest. This lead knight immediately starts bowing and apologizing for her team's very professional reaction. Meanwhile, Thor's casually healing a nosebleed, apologizing for startling them in the dark. He even compliments her reaction speed, which is a very smooth way to handle scaring someone half to death. This knight leader connects the dots, asking if they are also here investigating the mysterious screams. Thor confirms it, learning the knights are on an official mission to clear up minor issues for their commander. She shows him their map, admitting they have found absolutely nothing so far. But the professor, ever the sharp one, immediately spots something off about their map. She points out a small storage room on their chart that is completely missing from her own copy. This knights explain it is a new room built during recent repairs, which is just screaming secret evil lair. With a solid lid, Thor decides to check it out, and the knights eagerly ask to tag along. His new fan club starts gossiping about the handsome old guy, and he just deadpans an apology for being old. They reach the room, and the first clue is that it is humid but suspiciously free of dust. Sensing something's wrong, our boy activates his magic sight to get a better look. He immediately picks up a faint mana reaction coming from somewhere deeper underground. It is a tiny, artificial source on the wall, something the knights completely missed. He finds the tiny, mana-infused lock on the wall, immediately recognizing it is a magic keyhole. While the others are busy theorizing about a missing magic key, our boy has other, more direct plans. He just skips the whole puzzle and blasts the lock with a purge spell. Problem solved. With a loud rumble, the spell works instantly, and the entire wall section starts to give way. And boom, a hidden door slides open, leaving his new nightly fan club completely stunned. He casually explains he just cut its mana supply like he was unplugging a lamp before pushing it open. Behind the door is a staircase leading down, and it absolutely reeks of decay, always a good sign. Their torch illuminates a long, dark descent into whatever fresh hell this is. This whole crew heads down the seemingly endless stairs, venturing deeper into the capital's underbelly. They emerge into a massive underground arena, complete with some very ominous bloodstains on the floor. As they take in the scale of the place, they spot something moving behind some bars in the distance. And it is a whole cage packed with monsters, which is definitely not on the city's official tour. Goblins, orcs, dire wolves, a whole menagerie of things that should absolutely not be living under the capital. This professor connects the dots. This is an illegal monster fighting ring, and the screams were human. Just then, they are spotted by some shady-looking figures up on a balcony who are not happy to see them. These guys immediately scream, "Kill them," and order all the monsters released. So much for a quiet investigation. Thor barely even flinches as the order to unleash chaos echoes through the arena. This cages fly open, and now they are completely surrounded by a horde of very angry monsters. But the Knight Leader is not scared, because she has total, unwavering faith in her new hero, Mr. Thor. And our boy steps up, ready to direct the battle, telling everyone their roles like a seasoned commander. This professor gets grabbed by a goblin, looking more annoyed than anything as Thor calls the next play. With a quick flash up, our boy casts a massive area of effect buff on the entire party. This sends the professor into overdrive, who is now internally fuming that his support magic is better than hers. One of the knights feels the power-up kick in, suddenly moving faster and hitting way harder than before. Even the Knight Leader is stunned when the monsters suddenly start moving in slow motion, and another knight realizes this is not just a debuff on the monsters. It is another one of Thor's spells, a protective barrier that lets them tank hits like they are nothing. In seconds, the entire monster horde is getting absolutely dismantled by the superpowered team. Up on the balcony, the bad guys decide to just cut their losses and run, forget calling the boss. This Knight Leader spots them fleeing, but Thor's already prepping a spell to make sure they do not get far. And just like that, the would-be escapees are zapped and dropped, their grand plans totally fried. But look who it is. Luna, one of their stalkers, is standing right there, wondering why they crashed her party. Thor immediately connects the dots, realizing the Mage Corps was also on the case and their followers were just another team. He tries to scold her for being reckless, but she just fires back that she is fine and already called for backup. Right on cue, a whole squad of Capitol guards storms the arena, ready to clean up the mess. When they ask for a witness, Luna immediately volunteers from her balcony, having seen the whole thing unfold. As the guards start hauling the criminals away, Thor gets a bad feeling this is far from over. He explains to the Knight Leader that an operation this huge could not be run by small-time thugs. Then he drops the real bomb. The culprits knew who they were, meaning there is a traitor in the royal palace. Thor stares into a dark, bloody passage, his mind racing as the Knight Leader asks what is bothering him. Thor's feeling his own buffs, casually plugging the professor's class to the impressed knights. Staring down a bloody hall, he senses something is deliberately being hidden from them. A creepy voice confirms his suspicion, impressed that a mere human could sense its presence. With a panicked shout, Thor warns everyone that a new enemy has just arrived. Out from the shadows pops a tiny, robed figure radiating some seriously bad vibes. This whole squad squares up, facing a glowing red doorway where the new threat is hiding, and out steps a full-on lich who is very excited to have some new prey to play with. Thor just smirks, talking cryptically about a day that is already passed while the Knight Leader panics. This lich gets super offended, insisting it is a second apostle for some supreme lord, not just a lich. It then asks which demon king they are talking about, as if there is a whole catalog of them. This name it drops is Demon King Jisbal, and Thor definitely seems to recognize it. But the professor steps in, calling the Demon King a loser, and the lich Reuniting, how's that for a burn? Reuniting the lich absolutely loses it, screaming about blasphemy against its precious lord. Next comes the villain monologue about sacrificing the capital's people to atone for past failures. With its staff raised high, Reuniting begins a ritual to bring its Demon King back to the mortal realm. Suddenly, one of the knights is startled when a monster corpse at her feet starts to twitch. All around them, the bodies of the monsters they just defeated are eerily beginning to stir. And just like that, they are facing a brand new horde of red-eyed undead monsters. This professor immediately identifies it as necromancy, realizing they are in the worst possible spot for it. Hearing Jisbal's name seems to have triggered something deep inside her, something that feels a lot like rage. Thor reveals the professor's trauma is tied to the Demon King and the death of a hero named Alan. She thanks him for understanding, admitting she is not yet strong enough to face those memories. Stepping forward with grim determination, the professor gets ready to handle the lich herself. Reuniting is still monologuing about its grand revival plan, but she just shuts it down as pure delusion. With a cold smirk, Thor promises to personally crush that little dream all over again in Alan's place. This lich is completely stunned by his audacity as Thor vows to leave nothing of it behind. Meanwhile, the professor gives the knights their orders: just neutralize the reanimated monsters for now. On cue, the entire horde of undead creatures charges them in a massive, terrifying wave. This Knight Leader is baffled by the random attack plan, knowing necromancy is a complex art. One of her subordinates explains the weakness: the spell fails if a corpse loses over half its mass. It seems the lich's control is already slipping as some of the smaller zombies are not even moving. Wasting no time, the professor unleashes a massive blade of light, carving through the front lines. This Knight Leader immediately gets the strategy: they will distract the zombies to drain the lich's mana. Feeling totally hyped by Thor's support, she is fired up and ready to win this thing. Reuniting is not impressed, calling them all insects as it begins charging up a huge spell. It then unleashes a gigantic fireball, intending to incinerate the entire party in one shot. This Knight Leader panics, screaming that a blast that powerful will bring the whole cavern down on them. But Thor just smirks, calling the lich's power disappointing while preparing his own magic. He calmly targets the incoming fireball, setting his own spell to maximum size to meet it head-on. His massive blue vortex slams into the attack, leaving the lich shocked he was holding back this whole time. This professor keeps roasting the lich, calling its devotion to a pathetic, defeated demon king just sad. Reuniting absolutely loses its mind, screaming for her to shut up, someone's a little sensitive. It then flexes its true magic, simultaneously charging up multiple elemental spells to show off. This is the special technique it learned directly from its master Jisbal, or so it claims. With a dramatic flourish, the lich unleashes its multicolored magical barrage right at the professor, but she is completely unimpressed, calling the attack a cute trick and nothing more. A single, elegant counterspell from her just completely neutralizes the entire attack in a flash of light. Reuniting is left completely speechless, unable to process how its ultimate combo just got swatted away. She then schools the lich on basic elemental counters, asking if its brain is rotten, a truly savage takedown. Meanwhile, the knights are freaking out over the old guy's insane support magic, but the professor downplays it as basic stuff. When asked if any court mage could do it, her internal monologue is a very firm no, because she is just that good. She mentally explains that while the theory is simple, perfectly countering an enemy's spell strength is nearly impossible in practice. Lacking huge mana reserves, she relies on incredible precision, a skill she has clearly mastered. Thor silently praises her skill while Reuniting fumes, still salty about being mocked by a human. Seeing his chance, our boy steps up to taunt the lich, daring it to use its other specialty spells instead of holding back. Falling for the bait completely, Reuniting agrees it was just playing and starts powering up its real dark magic. As the lich prepares its ultimate move, the professor notes their plan worked. It is almost out of mana. Reuniting unleashes Dark Haze, a massive sphere of crackling dark energy meant to end the fight. But the professor is already one step ahead, calmly casting a light-based shield to defend against it. This lich is thrown into a full-blown panic, screaming that its magic failing is impossible and demanding to know who they are. Thor calmly deduces that after all that spell spamming, the lich has got to be running on fumes, so he just flicks his wrist and sends out a tiny little fire bug spell, looking totally casual. This professor is completely baffled, wondering why he is using a campfire starter in a boss fight. And then every single undead monster just collapses at once, leaving the whole squad stunned. She cannot believe it, his dinky little daily spell somehow just cancelled the entire necromancy ritual. Turns out, the lich had to throw up a last-ditch shield because Thor's spell went straight for its staff. With its mana completely drained, Reuniting's pathetic shield shatters into a million pieces. Thor just stands there, having played the lich like a fiddle from the very beginning. Reuniting finally gets it. The whole fight was a setup to burn its mana, and now it is too weak to block anything. As a final beam of light vaporizes it, the lich screams about its undying loyalty, classic villain exit. Our boy just gives a little wave as the lich turns to dust like he is just taking out the trash. While the knights are losing their minds over who stole the professor's thunder, Thor just points to himself. But plot twist, it was Luna who fired the finishing shot, thinking Thor's spell was not enough to do the job. This professor tries to play peacemaker, telling the knights to chill because Luna was just trying to help. Thor, however, is in full dad mode, insisting that if he does not scold them, they will never learn. With the guards now on the scene, the knight leader asks the professor about securing the lich's remains. This question seems to trigger a sudden, shocked realization for the professor. Meanwhile, Thor finds exactly what he was looking for in the dust, a glowing purple core. He calls it a Jin core, explaining that one of these loose in the capital is a massive threat. Looking out over the carnage, the reality of a Demon King resurrection plot starts to sink in for everyone. Thor's face is pure determination, vowing he will never let the Demon King's plot succeed. This scene then cuts to a quiet town at night where someone is stammering in total shock. And it is Luna who is now frantically apologizing for completely kill-stealing the lich boss fight. While Thor tries to be the cool dad about it, the professor is holding a serious grudge, no forgiveness for you. This all leads to a super awkward victory dinner where the tension is practically a side dish. Still buzzing from the buffs, one of the knights asks if they can actually sign up for support magic classes. Thor's eyes light up at the recruitment opportunity, especially after hearing their commander is pro-magic. Suddenly, the entire knight squad is hyped to learn, with the professor promising to teach them everything she knows. Our boy is just thrilled about his booming new student enrollment. Business is good. Meanwhile, out on a highway somewhere in the Empire, a group of travelers decides to make camp for the night. And look who it is, the commander the knights mentioned, a pretty boy in full armor looking off into the distance. Back with our crew, Luna is practicing magic, realizing just how insane it is to counter a spell with its opposite element. One of the other students points out that Thor called it basic stuff, which is just not helping at all. She explains that in theory, sure, but in practice it requires god-tier precision. A shield is just way easier. Trying to demonstrate, she gets spooked by a random rabbit and completely fumbles the spell, so much for god tier. This professor steps in with some tough love, telling Luna she cannot just coast on her attack magic knowledge. Luna whines that the professor is being way too nitpicky, singling her out for the hard lessons. With a stone-cold expression, the professor just says she hates lazy students, end of discussion. Thor finally strolls over, finding out the others have been getting some extra training in while he was gone. One of the new recruits proudly shows she can now cast a basic speed buff, earning an encouraging smile from Thor. This new recruit proudly shows off her magic sight while Luna and the others whine about their own slow progress. Thor just plays the encouraging teacher, praising their focus and promising to check their mana later. But Luna immediately runs to him for backup, complaining that the professor is picking on her. This earns her a death glare from the professor, who gets weirdly intense about showing Thor proper respect. Our boy smoothly de-escalates by reminding Luna to focus, then just bribes the whole class with snacks. And we are talking the good stuff, macarons from that one super popular sweets shop in town. As everyone digs in, Thor hands a special bag to the professor, saying he got them during parade prep. When another student asks why she gets a different one, he reveals he remembered her favorite flavor. What a player. He then tries to be casual, telling the professor she can drop the mister since she is his senior. Blushing, she happily agrees and even apologizes to Luna, a mood swing so fast it gives Thor whiplash. Her internal monologue is just pure delusion, telling herself she is the special one and should not mind a child. Meanwhile, the new recruit is having a full-on fangirl moment over her precious snack from Thor. Luna is just left standing there, completely baffled by how a few sweets just fixed everyone's attitude. This scene then shifts to a bustling city street, where a massive crowd is gathering for a triumphal parade. While walking through the masses, some of the students insist their professor is way cooler than any royal guard captain. Thor explains the huge turnout is because the capital is finally being purified, making travel safe again. Luna, however, is just bored out of her mind, complaining that peace means no missions and nothing to do. This professor sees an opening, sweetly suggesting Luna head back to the dorm so she can get Thor all to herself. Of course, Luna immediately refuses, leaving Thor stuck in the middle of their little Cold War. As the parade gets closer, the crowd goes wild, and one of the students points Thor toward a less chaotic spot. One of the students starts gushing about the parade captain, a guy named Arno who is apparently a big deal. She continues with his whole life story, explaining he is a rising star who is super tight with the king. Luna immediately calls her out for being a fangirl, but she denies it is for a friend, of course. After declaring she only likes guys stronger than her, she points out Arno just as Thor recognizes the name. This captain rides by in all his glory, and Thor remembers training the kid back when he was just a Lancer wannabe. A close-up reveals the handsome face of the Royal Guard's finest, looking stoic and focused for the crowd. But then Arno just freezes mid-parade, spotting someone with a look of pure, utter shock. And his entire demeanor shatters into sparkly, flowery fanboy bliss, a truly professional moment. He literally leaps off his horse and slides into a kneel, grabbing Thor's hand like his life depends on it. Arno apologizes for getting carried away, prompting a deadpan response from Thor that he was not expecting a proposal. Our boy is just proud, realizing that delinquent Arno actually grew up to be the captain after all. This captain, still clinging to his hand, begs Thor to stop calling him that, looking absolutely smitten. Meanwhile, the entire crowd is just staring, completely baffled as to who could make their captain kneel. Arno has to run off to report to the king, but makes Thor promise to visit him at headquarters later. With him gone, the students finally process what happened, asking if Thor was really his teacher. This professor, clearly not enjoying the public attention, grabs Thor's arm to pull him somewhere more private. From a balcony, she admits that Arno's weird strength now makes sense knowing Thor taught him. She then reveals an old, abolished rule. The Royal Guard was once forbidden from using any magic in combat. Luna is completely floored by this, questioning the logic of banning a tool that makes you stronger. Thor explains the flimsy reasoning was to prevent neglecting physical training, calling it nonsense he discussed with someone named Mia. She explains the Royal Guard's good old chivalry is just a fancy excuse for their stubborn anti-magic stance. Even with Arno being a pro-magic superstar, he is apparently having a tough time changing the old guard's mind. Luna thinks Arno was just excited, but Thor clarifies that no, the guy has always been this extra around him. Realizing his former student is in a bind, our boy decides he has gotta step in and help out. This professor and Luna are all for it, agreeing that magic should be way more widespread anyway. So Thor plans to head over to the guard headquarters, waving goodbye to the two of them. But he pauses, sensing the impending doom of leaving his student and his colleague alone together. With a sigh, he tells them to play nice, which immediately sends Luna into a fit of rage, classic. Over at the castle, it seems Arno's proposal to bring in a mage is not being well received by the higher-ups. He is literally on his knees, begging Thor to be their instructor and vowing he will not accept anyone else. This captain then formally asks him to become the official magic instructor and advisor for the entire Night Corps. Thor is just completely floored, sweating bullets from this very sudden and very public job offer. Arno passionately argues that the Royal Guard must get stronger by any means necessary to protect the nation. While he insists they need a top-tier mage, Thor is just dying of embarrassment from all the stares. Just then, another knight named Velger enthusiastically jumps in, shouting his agreement with the captain. Velger gives a glowing testimony, vouching for Thor's skills and pointing out he is already teaching other knights. As Arno beams with pride, Thor just realizes that the supposedly calm Velger is a total Arno fanboy. Our boy tries to wave it all off, calling the idea of him being an instructor absurd, but it is too late. Arno draws a line in the sand, challenging anyone with complaints to voice them right here and now. And right on cue, some meathead knight starts screaming that he will never take orders from a wimpy court mage. Thor just watches as Arno calmly tells the meathead knight Edmund that he understands his position, but then he absolutely lays into the guy, bringing up a decade-old military disaster caused by this exact kind of petty rivalry. Our boy just facepalms, thinking that yep, Arno's short temper is still going strong, even with a promotion. Meanwhile, Arno's fan club is totally swooning over how cool he is, while Velger agrees with the point but not the tone. This whole thing sends Thor down memory lane, right back to the Demon King's devastating attack 10 years prior. A quick flashback shows just how bad it was. The army was a disorganized mess, leading to massive casualties. Back in the present, the faces of the current knights look on, many of them too young to remember that failure. Edmund, completely cornered by logic, just sweats and screams that the past is irrelevant, a classic defense. He then goes full-on mutiny, demanding Arno be fired for lacking chivalry and disrespecting tradition. This entire throne room is silent as this one dude tries to stage a coup over his bruised ego. His big accusation is that Arno cheated in the duel for captaincy by using magic, because his dad would never lose otherwise. Velger immediately shuts him down, reminding him the emperor saw the whole thing, so he is basically calling the king a liar. Arno finally speaks up, calling out the hypocrisy of trying to fire him right after he cleared an S-rank dungeon for them. Getting right in Edmund's face, he reminds him that a captain's job is to protect his soldiers, period. He then points to all the wounded knights from their last mission, asking if this is the tradition he is so proud of. Thor can practically hear the injured soldiers thinking how different things could have been with better tools and tactics. In a blaze of glory, Arno declares he'd give up his rank in a second if it meant preventing those injuries. He makes it clear magic is happening, and if anyone has a problem, they can settle it with an arm wrestling match, sure, why not? Etmund and his buddies are just left there, mouths agape, completely short-circuiting from that speech. Seeing his opening, Thor steps forward, asking Etmund what he actually hopes to accomplish with all this drama. Etmund clarifies he does not want the job. He wants his daddy, the former captain, put back in charge. Thor calmly steps in to point out how unreasonable that is, but Etmund just tells him to stay out of it. This disrespect sends Arno into a rage, ready to throw hands while Etmund screams about not bowing to mages. But our boy just casually casts a double stand immovable spell because he is so done with this nonsense. And just like that, both knights are frozen mid-lunge, completely paralyzed by Thor's magic. This other knights are just stunned, realizing the speed of his spell activation is completely off the charts. Thor gets between them with a terrifyingly calm smile, telling the two angry children not to get physical. Then he goes full-on scary teacher mode, lecturing them both until they are sweating bullets and stammering apologies. With everyone's attention, he proposes a way to settle this deadlock since talking clearly is not working. His solution is a good old-fashioned dungeon conquest competition, a core hunt to prove who is better. These rules are simple. Whoever destroys the dungeon core first wins, and team composition is flexible. Etmund's crony whispers to him, questioning if a suitable dungeon even exists for a fair match. But Arno is already on it, suggesting the golem dungeon in an abandoned mine that just became active. He explains that this particular dungeon has a nasty habit of reviving itself, making it a persistent problem. It is also in a rank threat, which is way too tough for a side quest, and Etmund's face just drains of all color. Thor thinks it is a great idea, since clearing it would also be a huge win for the nation. Backed into a corner, Etmund shakily accepts the challenge, trying to look tough and failing miserably. Arno cannot resist a little jab, pointing out Etmund is the one complaining, not the one issuing challenges. After a quick scolding from Thor, Arno immediately apologizes, looking like a chastised puppy, so much for captainly dignity. Etmund sets his condition. His faction will bring one squad, and Thor's side can bring whoever, mages included. Arno gets this smug look, declaring their team is just him and Professor Thor, a two-man army. Etmund's crew immediately pounces on that, laughing that there are no take-backs while Thor silently panics. Then Arno gets way too close, whispering about how his beloved student is in trouble and needs saving. He even offers to cover for Thor's old age, giving a thumbs up like he is doing him a massive favor. Our boy is completely unimpressed, warning Arno not to drag him down with all his usual big talk. But that is all Arno needed to hear, celebrating that he gets to party with his teacher again, and Thor realizes he has been played. As they head out, the other knights just grumble about their captain acting like an overexcited puppy. Meanwhile, one of Etmund's cronies flashes a super creepy grin, confident they are going to win this easily. This scene shifts to the competition site, a desolate abandoned mine in the middle of nowhere. Velger, acting as the official referee, lays down the law for the duel, staking the knight's honor. Arno keeps his terms brutally simple. If he wins, Etmund's fired. If he loses, he will quit himself. Etmund just scoffs, telling him not to complain later, while Arno is just eager to get the show on the road. Thor immediately spots something off. Etmund brought mages, and one has suspiciously good footwork for his mana level. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out Sensei, making both of them turn around in surprise. And look who it is, the professor, Luna and Riene have shown up as a surprise cheering section. This professor claims they are here for support, but Luna's just trying to blend in with the crowd of knights Thor was already training. With everyone assembled, Velger confirms the rules one last time. First to the dungeon core wins. He gives them a final look before pointing toward the ominous dungeon entrance, and with a cry of begin, Arno's team shoots off like a rocket, boosted by an acceleration spell. Etmund's jaw just drops at their speed, but his buddy scoffs that they will burn out, banking on a slow and steady strategy. From a safe distance, the professor and her students watch the two teams prepare to enter the mine. She smugly tells everyone there is no way she'd miss a chance to witness her sensei's exploits firsthand. Inside, the dungeon is a hellish lava pit with a single, precarious mine track running through it. Thor immediately gets to work, casting a complex spell to pinpoint the dungeon core for Arno. With his target located, Arno leaps down to take on the first golem, blocking their path. A degrade spell from Thor exposes the core in a weird spot just as Arno attacks, perfect timing. Arno admits that without his teacher's help, just finding the weak point would have been a huge pain. Then he immediately smashes the exposed core with a single, powerful thrust of his spear. This golem's core explodes into pieces, taking the monster down in a matter of seconds. Our boy warns Arno not to get cocky, but the captain is just thrilled to be fighting again. Arno puffs up his chest, reminding Thor he is the commander now, only for Thor to apologize for old habits. But the commander is just blushing, admitting he loves being scolded by his teacher. This is getting weird. Thor actually praises him, saying his speech in the throne room was surprisingly good for a hothead. This praise sends Arno into a fit of pure joy before Thor tells him to get his head in the game. Just as he says that, Thor points out they are in the golem dungeon for a reason. And right on cue, two weaponized iron golems show up, a rare sight for an ranked dungeon. Arno is ready to throw down and Thor agrees, seeing a chance to score some valuable materials. They sync up instantly, Thor using mage sight while Arno ignites his spear with a flame shroud. Meanwhile, the audience watches on a magic screen, absolutely losing their minds as Arno solos an iron golem. This entire fan club is just swooning, gushing over how cool the commander is and how amazing Thor's support is. Back at the mine entrance, the peanut gallery watches the whole thing on a prototype magic screen. Velger explains that observing these duels used to be impossible, so this new tech is a massive help. On screen, the crowd loses it as Arno just casually one-shots an iron golem like it is nothing. But Velger clarifies that is not just Arno's skill, it is Thor's insane support magic making it possible. He even recalls how it used to take 2 perfect hits just to crack a golem's shell and then hit the core. Luna jumps in, explaining that golem cores are randomly placed, so you cannot just swing wildly. She gives a whole lecture with cute diagrams on golem weak points, which are a total pain to find. Basically, you have to find the core, weaken the armor, and then strike, a process Thor just made instant. When a knight asks if they can learn this, Velger says nope, that level of coordination is unique to Thor and Arno. This professor agrees, calling Thor a complete monster who makes it look easy, something even Arno cannot replicate. Luna then breaks down the spell combo, Mage Sight, Flame Shroud, and Degrade, all cast simultaneously. She compares it to a master archer casting spells while firing arrows, a skill that should take 10 years to learn. This professor is just beaming with pride, watching her sensei's reputation go through the roof. And it is working because Velger just flat out declares he has fallen for Sir Thor and wants him get in line, buddy. All the other knights just stare at him, completely floored by this very public, very intense confession. When asked to clarify, he says he literally wants Thor to be the Knight Order's magic advisor. Everyone just facepalms at his terrible wording, while Luna notes that no one's even watching Etmund's team. The surveillance tools are tracking them though, revealing they look unmotivated but weirdly confident. A quick shot shows one of Etmund's mages holding some kind of glowing magic shield. Meanwhile, Etmund is sweating buckets, realizing they are falling behind and ordering his team to split up. Etmund's brilliant strategy is to split his knights and mages up, a move that has never gone wrong in history ever. From the viewing area, Luna immediately questions why they'd separate their frontline from their support. This professor asks Reuniting if she recognizes any of Etmund's mages, but she draws a complete blank. With a smug little grin, Reuniting reveals the big secret. There is not a single actual mage on the challenger's team. She just plays dumb when a knight asks for details, turning her attention back to Thor on the screen. Meanwhile, Arno and Thor find the dungeon surprisingly easy for an rank, with Thor guessing the environment is the real threat. Arno totally agrees, admitting he'd be toast from the heat alone without Thor's water shroud spell. He was expecting more of a fight from Etmund's crew, but then he spots a signal flare in the distance. Thor points it out and Arno realizes it is a taunt from the other team telling them to hurry up. Just then, the real boss shows up, a massive, fully armored golem blocking their path. Arno just smirks, completely convinced that with his teacher backing him up, this is an easy win. But Thor is quick to shut him down, telling him not to get careless and mess this up. This two of them analyze the golem, noting its insane defense and no obvious weak points. Using his mage sight, Thor immediately pinpoints the core hidden right in the golem's chest. Arno figures it'll take him 10 minutes to chip through the armor with a flame-coated spear. Their strategy session is cut short by a giant laser beam from the golem, time to move. Thor confidently declares he will cut that 10-minute fight down to 5, much to Arno's surprise. Powering up, Arno engulfs his spear in a massive flame wrap, ready for the attack. He grits his teeth, channeling all his power into a single decisive thrust. And with perfect aim, he plunges the fiery spear directly into the golem's chest core. Arno lands on the golem's head, casually dodging a grab while complimenting its reaction time. What a guy. That grab was a little too close for comfort, though, even making the captain flinch for a second. He leaps away just in time, admitting that attack was definitely going to land if he'd been a step slower. From the ground, Thor analyzes the golem's magic-resistant armor, realizing the back is their only real opening. Back in the viewing room, Luna is just floored by Arno's agility in full plate armor with a spear. One of the knights explains his style is more lone wolf adventurer than a team player, all about hit-and-run tactics. This guy is already a beast on his own, but with Thor's support magic, he is basically a walking apocalypse. This professor dryly points out he is only asterisk good in combat, hoping this whole mess fixes their political drama. For a moment, she seems to be thinking about more than just the fight on the screen. Meanwhile, Thor senses something is deeply wrong. This golem is way too powerful, suspecting a malicious outside influence. Arno, completely oblivious, is just taunting the giant robot, asking if it has any moves besides being a big tough guy. Apparently that was the wrong thing to say because the golem rears back for a world-ending stomp. Thor immediately casts another immovable spell, this time targeting the golem's leg to keep Arno safe. And just like that, the massive golem is frozen mid-stomp, leaving Arno just floating there in confusion. Our boy is seriously straining to hold it, realizing this thing is heavier than a freaking dragon. What a workout. With the golem completely off balance and suspended, Arno has the perfect opening for an attack. Thor uses his mage sight to lock onto the core, then casts Flame Wrap to supercharge Arno's spear. He shouts that he has got the setup covered and Arno gives a quick Roger, before diving in for the kill. Engulfed in a massive vortex of fire, Arno plummets towards the golem's exposed core like a meteor. His face is pure focus as he lines up the one shot that will end this boss fight for good. Arno's fiery spear slams directly into the golem's chest, creating a massive, shattering impact. But the hit was too shallow, so Thor casts a spell on the spear, yelling at him to push it in. Using a weight amplification spell, Arno puts every last bit of his strength into the thrust. He is still struggling against the golem's tough hide, straining to drive the spear deeper. With one final push, the spear punches through and the core just erupts from the inside, problem solved. Thor gives him a nice work, but Arno's just complaining that the finale was a little anticlimactic. Our boy confirms the fight took about 3 minutes and now it is time to destroy the dungeon core. They find their target, a giant glowing crystal, and Thor tells Arno to do the honors. Arno just grins, promising to go all out as he readies his spear for the final strike. Suddenly, a massive vortex of purple energy erupts from the mine tracks behind them. That is not good. This blast sends both of them flying through the air, completely ambushed by the hidden trap. Arno crashes hard into a pile of crystals, definitely feeling that one in the morning. He groans that the annihilation discharge was insane, glad his armor absorbed most of it. Checking on his teacher, he finds Thor's soul literally trying to escape his body. This sends Arno into a full-blown panic, screaming for his sensei in absolute terror. But Thor's just fine, admitting he is about to lose his breakfast from the world's worst roller coaster ride. While Thor recovers on a minecart, Arno tells him to just sit tight and let him handle the loot. A sudden thought hits Arno. Etmund's team was nowhere to be seen during that massive explosion. This can only mean one thing: they never even bothered to enter the dungeon at all. And right on cue, one of Etmund's shady mages appears, giving them a very unwelcome hello. This shady mage claims Etmund betrayed him and is now offering to help out of spite, a likely story. Arno just deadpans that they are already finished, casually calling the guy out as an assassin. While the assassin stays silent, Thor has a minor crisis, realizing he was the only one who did not notice. Our boy roasts the guy for having the stealth of a marching band, which clearly gets under his skin. Suddenly, a second assassin appears, announcing his contract is on Arno's life and Thor is now a witness who has to die. In the viewing room, everyone loses it as Velger realizes Etmund's absolutely despicable plan. He is ready to storm the mine and invalidate the duel, completely furious at the blatant cheating. But the professor calmly tells him to chill, questioning if he really thinks her sensei would let his student fall so easily. Luna jumps in, confidently stating that Thor could handle this alone and Arno is no slouch either. Back on the magic screen, she tells the panicking knights to just be quiet and watch the good part. Inside the mine, Arno immediately tries to shield his teacher, telling him to get back since he is the target. Thor's expression darkens, declaring there is no way in hell he is standing by while his student is in danger. This sudden shift in pressure shocks the assassin, who realizes Thor is way more than just a support mage. Arno steps forward, ready to take on the assassin himself and protect his sensei. This assassin makes his move, but Arno effortlessly blocks the attack with a magic shield. Despite the block, the hitman seems confident he has the upper hand in a one-on-one fight. Thor notes that Arno is using the butt of his spear, trying to capture the guy alive, which complicates things. With a smirk, Arno compliments the assassin for managing to dodge his opening strike. This assassin counters with a glowing blade, trying to bait Arno into a more open space. Arno easily reads the move, calling the guy's intentions way too obvious as he closes the distance. This second assassin is already on edge, demanding to know just how many more opponents they are facing. And right on cue, a third one appears, the leader, who mocks them for being so childishly lured into a trap. This guy announces his entire guild is here, promising to fight with full force out of respect. What a nice guy. While Thor looks genuinely concerned about the numbers, Arno just smirks, saying it is no problem at all. Our boy even thanks the old assassin bastards for gathering all the rats in one place for easy cleanup. This leader is clearly not amused by this lively brat, ordering his men to swarm Arno while he takes care of Thor. Arno just grins at his teacher, saying it is his cue, but Thor plays innocent, claiming he is not good at fighting people. With a little "we are counting on you," Arno gives him a pep talk as the assassins completely surround them. Back in the viewing room, the screen shows Arno literally flying through the air, dodging multiple attackers with ease. His opponents are just floored, wondering how he can possibly move that fast while wearing a full suit of plate armor. This professor immediately breaks it down, realizing Thor is flawlessly casting a whole suite of support spells on him. One of the knights, completely baffled, asks if those are some kind of incredibly difficult spells. She explains the spells themselves are simple, but controlling their timing and duration with such precision is what is monstrous. This whole display proves that magic is not for the lazy, as Arno effortlessly outmaneuvers another assassin. Meanwhile, Thor faces off against the assassin leader, looking way too calm for someone who cannot fight. This assassin is getting seriously annoyed, unable to tell if Thor's composure is genuine confidence or just plain stupidity, and Thor just gives him a little smile that says, "You are about to have a very, very bad day." This answer is composure, as Thor calmly casts immovable stand with a massive magic circle flaring to life. Laughing off the big talk, the assassin dives in, completely underestimating the so-called support mage. But his attack shatters the spell, revealing the assassin has magic resistance, making this a much tougher fight. This assassin leader is completely stunned, realizing this so-called support mage is anything but a pushover. Thor just calmly casts a shield spell, effortlessly deflecting a volley of daggers like it is a minor inconvenience. Buffing himself with acceleration and bulletproof, the assassin zips behind Thor for a surprise attack. He unleashes a spray of daggers, hoping to overwhelm Thor's defenses with sheer numbers. But with tremor vision, Thor reads the attack perfectly, noting his usual stealth tricks will not work here. And then Thor just whips out a sword, meeting the assassin's blade head-on in a shower of sparks. This assassin is having a full-on meltdown, recognizing the blade is made of legendary Demon King steel. Enraged, he screams die, and puts everything he has into a massive glowing power strike, and Thor just blocks that ultimate attack with a one-handed magic shield, looking bored while doing it. Their blades grind together, magic flaring as Thor's defense completely stonewalls the all-out assault. Stunned, the assassin asks if he is even a mage, and Thor just trolls him, claiming he quit swordsmanship halfway through. Thor casually suggests they both have strengths beyond the blade, and the assassin seems to concede the point. This assassin introduces himself as Kalman, explaining that when they give a name, it means they are about to get serious. Thor, however, just reads the situation completely differently, noting Kalman is setting up a trick with his left hand. Kalman absolutely snaps, screaming that when an assassin commits to a kill, they are willing to die for it. Just as he predicted, Thor calmly targets Kalman's left hand, casting a flame veil to counter the hidden move. And just like that, Kalman's left hand erupts in flames, completely ruining whatever trick he had planned. This assassin can only curse, his eyes burning with pain and the shock of being so perfectly outplayed. With Kalman completely distracted, Thor appears behind him, sword poised for the kill. It is over. But in a last-ditch act of defiance, Kalman grabs the blade with his still-burning hand, determined to take Thor with him. With Kalman down for the count, Thor just winces at his still-smoking hand. That grab was no joke. Meanwhile, Arno's already cleaned up the mooks, cheering for his sensei's brilliant victory over their leader. Thor downplays it, admitting he is exhausted because he had to hold back from actually killing the guy. Arno just stares in total admiration, and Thor gets a little flustered, telling him to stop overestimating him. And speak of the devil, Etmund shows up looking like he wrestled a bear, claiming he is here to help. His jaw hits the floor, seeing all his hired help already gift-wrapped and waiting for pickup. This guy is absolutely fuming, realizing his brilliant plan to backstab Arno mid-fight went up in smoke. His goons try to rally him, insisting this is the perfect chance to jump a tired Arno. What a bunch of heroes. With his last bit of dignity gone, Etmund draws his blades, screaming that Arno just needs to disappear. From a distance, Arno just gives the most bored "do whatever" you have ever heard. He is so over this. But our boy is practically vibrating with excitement, realizing this means 3 back-to-back fights for them. So Etmund and his squad of loyal chumps charge forward, screaming for Arno's head. We cut to the throne room, where someone is reporting the duel's disqualification due to Etmund's little mutiny. This king notes that tradition demands the commander execute the mutineer, but senses there is a but coming. Turns out it is Arno himself, holding Etmund by the scruff while arguing this was just a personal grudge. He then asks for mercy, claiming Etmund's beef was with him, not the crown, a very generous take. Musing on the request, the king recognizes the political mess this could cause and the need for every soldier. He agrees to spare Etmund but gives Arno a stern warning that this is a one-time deal. And with all that drama settled, it is finally time to celebrate the victory in Thor's new job. Of course, Arno is already completely wasted, clinging to his teacher like a giant heavy koala. At the victory party, a completely wasted Arno is clinging to Thor, drunkenly yelling about their unbreakable bond. One of the knights tells everyone to cut Arno some slack, but Thor just deadpans that his student is incredibly heavy. Meanwhile, others discuss Thor's decisive action against Etmund, whose family has a lot of influence. Thor just pats his passed-out student's head, saying this is no time for infighting among humans. This conversation shifts to more serious matters like the demon race plotting a comeback and unrest in the mage corps. Luna adds that the underground arena investigation is finally over, leading to a bunch of arrests tied to Count Zexberg. Thor seems concerned about Jybert but learns that while he is innocent, his family's getting punished anyway. This gets Thor thinking about the bigger picture. As the Demon King's followers rise, traitors within the kingdom are being rooted out. This king is sweating bullets, wondering if all this is a coincidence or if humanity has a serious mole problem. His serious expression does not go unnoticed, and someone asks if something's on his mind. He admits he is worried about good people getting caught in the political crossfire and also has doubts about being a good instructor. This self-doubt immediately gets shut down by the ladies, who are shocked he'd even think that. Luna grabs him, passionately declaring that since she learned from him, she knows for a fact he is incredible. In fact, she goes all in, calling his teaching style the absolute best in the entire world. Even Verger jumps on the hype train, wanting to learn Thor's tactics, much to the teacher's embarrassment. Suddenly, a mug slams down on the table with a loud hey. It is the pigtail girl who has had enough of his modesty, reminding him he totally kicked her butt in their duel. This praise just keeps coming from all sides, and poor Thor can only try to hide behind his drink. And just when you think it is over, Arno jolts awake, screaming that Professor Thor is #1, what a fanboy. This entire table raises their mugs in a massive toast to their new commander, who just looks on, finally cracking a smile. Thor gets all blushy, humbly accepting his new role as instructor and thanking everyone for their support. As the party winds down, some folks head out while the hardcore drinkers stay for another round. Walking home alone, Thor has a moment of self-pity, feeling he got swept up in everyone's energy. But his students catch up, with one of the guys getting way too friendly and asking for a private word. This dude gets right in his personal space, asking a question he has apparently been dying to know. He straight up asks Thor how he feels about Reuniting, the professor, time for some high school level gossip. And of course, Reuniting is right there, absolutely sparkling with anticipation for his answer. Thor just praises her as a kind and strong person, so the guy immediately asks if Thor wants to date him instead. Laughing it off, Thor says he is no match for the guy and insists Reuniting is just a valued student. Reuniting's face falls a little as he says he just wants her to be happy, whatever that means for her. But his genuine sentiment seems to get through and she cracks a small, knowing smile. Suddenly, she grabs his arm, declaring she is perfectly fine with how things are right now. This others cheer her on, calling her little sister disciple as they finally head off for the night. So Thor walks her back to the palace with Reuniting gushing about how amazing her teacher is. Then the scene cuts to black, a voice echoing that he cannot fall asleep just yet. We are in a nightmare, a memory that repeats word for word with someone screaming his name. It is a flashback to a desperate battle, a woman yelling at him to stop before he dies from mana exhaustion. But he is focused on the enemy's remaining mana, convinced that if his team can just hold on, they will win. He is single-handedly shielding 3 allies from the Demon King's lethal black flames with perfect mana control. Pushing himself to the brink, he is only using 10% of his power for himself, calculating they have 26 seconds to counterattack. In this nightmare, his shield cracks just seconds before the Demon King's mana gives out, a calculated risk. After 7 years with his party, Thor is bleeding from every orifice, pushing himself to the absolute limit. While his comrades were all superhuman prodigies, he was the dedicated support keeping them alive. He always considered himself mediocre, just the guy in the back holding things together with magic and grit. But even so, there was one thing he took immense pride in, a personal creed he'd die for, using his support magic to ensure not a single one of his friends would fall, even if it killed him. That single-minded dedication was his one and only source of honor in a party of superstars. Suddenly, mana floods back into his shield, and he realizes what his comrade Alan is doing behind him. His reaction is too slow, his body already burning through life force just to fuel his magic. His entire party, led by Alan, casts a repulsion spell, abandoning the shield he was maintaining, and Thor can only scream in absolute horror as their only protection vanishes. Alan charges straight into the Demon King's black flames, a move that looks like pure suicide. This others cry out his name, thinking he is throwing his life away for a final, desperate attack. Thor is just stunned, watching the black flames fade, his own sacrifice rendered completely pointless. In a flash of light, Alan stands victorious over the fallen Demon King, a so-called miracle. His teammates are ecstatic, cheering that the madman actually pulled it off, but Thor is just frozen. This official story is written. Hero Alan has slain the Demon King Jispar, saving the world. As the party celebrates their total victory, the Demon King's body starts regenerating behind them. A shadowy figure grabs Thor and he calls out to Alan, still not understanding what is happening. But it is Alan himself, looking down with cold eyes as the dream turns into a full-blown betrayal. Alan's face is pure ice, confirming this is not some misunderstanding, it is a full-on backstab. His hand closes around Thor's throat, the betrayal now chillingly and absolutely certain. Dark magic flares as Alan shoves him down, not to save him but to finish the job himself. This ground shatters under the force, with Thor being brutally crushed by his own damn teammate. Looking up, Thor can only watch in horror as the so-called hero reveals his true monstrous colors. Even his other party members just stand there, completely frozen as their entire team implodes. On his knees, Thor still cannot process it, calling out Alan's name in utter disbelief. His mind just short-circuits, refusing to accept that his best friend just tried to murder him. Reaching out into the darkness, he keeps calling for the man who just threw him away like trash. This nightmare ends with him alone on the battlefield, the other knight unable to even look at him. And so the official story is born. Alan died a hero, and the party returned to a silent, grieving capital. This entire kingdom mourns their fallen savior, completely unaware of the ugly truth behind the victory. Broken by the loss of his friend, Thor became a shell of himself, drowning in manufactured guilt. Even now, that despair haunts his dreams until a gentle hand pulls him from the memory, and he wakes with a jolt, finding his head resting in Reuniting's lap on a park bench. Scrambling up, he apologizes for being a burden, but she just says she is honored to be there for him. She mentions he was having a terrible nightmare, and he immediately panics, asking if he said anything weird. Reuniting, with a straight face, tells him he confessed his undying love and desire for 8 children, a bold move. This poor guy immediately goes into a full-on apology meltdown until she admits she was just joking. But her sly little smile suggests maybe, just maybe, she was not entirely lying about it. Even in his sleep, Thor is still muttering Alan's name, clearly trapped in that nightmare. Reuniting realizes the memory of the so-called hero is still a massive, unhealed wound for him. Apparently, the other 2 party members also clammed up about Alan's death, a 10-year-old mystery. Now awake and standing before a statue of his traitor, Thor admits her jokes sobered him up instantly. After that little trauma nap, he wholeheartedly agrees with her advice about drinking in moderation. With the sun coming up, Riene cheerfully grabs his arm, ready to head home after their eventful night. So they walk off, leaving the giant, hypocritical statue of hero Alan behind them. But his mind is still stuck on the betrayal, wondering why Alan did what he did 10 years ago. He flashes back to when they found Alan's journal, the only thing that survived the battle. Inside, Alan had written that he planned to kick Thor out of the party after the fight. What a guy. Staring up at the statue, he is still trying to piece together what Alan's final plan really was. Ultimately, he just resigns himself to the fact that he will probably never get the real answers. His brooding is suddenly cut short by Riene, who excitedly points up at the sky. She is absolutely beaming, pointing out the beautiful rainbow-colored clouds at dawn. Pulled out of his dark thoughts, Thor just stares up and agrees with her. Then he looks right at Riene and says, "They really are beautiful, smooth, my dude, real smooth." This immediately sends Riene into a flustered panic, telling him not to give her the wrong idea. Walking on, Thor mentions that something about their situation feels strange and she is all ears. He is genuinely confused, asking why she'd go to all this trouble just for him. And she just drops the L-bomb, casually asking if he seriously had not noticed she is in love with him. Thor is absolutely frozen, completely short-circuiting from her sudden love confession. She explains it is all his fault. He saved her when she was alone, so of course she fell for him. Our boy immediately starts sputtering, convinced she's got him mixed up with someone else, a classic case of mistaken identity. But Riene just smiles, telling him he is the entire reason she can be happy today. She calls him special, flashing back to the day he returned from the Demon King battle. In her memory, she saw him then, a broken man clutching the hero's ashes, looking like a walking void. Stepping forward in the present, she is ready to make her point absolutely clear. Riene promises to support him now, just as he once supported her when she had nothing. This genuine declaration finally seems to get through his thick, trauma-filled skull. His mind flashes to his own vow, one of never forgiving himself for his past weakness. But looking at his students, he realizes he cannot let them feel that same despair and thanks Riene. With newfound clarity, Thor tells her he finally knows what he needs to do, much to her delight. He makes a new promise to protect what matters and ensure the Demon King never returns. Meanwhile, at the ominous Mount Eld, some shadowy figures learn the Golem dungeon has been conquered. A horned demon lord is getting antsy, realizing they need to speed up the revival of their king, Jispar. Back at the academy, it is just another day of students training out on the field. We focus on Verger, whose attempt at magic fizzles into nothing in his bandaged hands. He turns to Thor, sweating buckets and apologizing for having absolutely no magical talent. This pigtail girl bluntly tells him that is obvious, and Thor has to jump in to soften her brutal honesty. Thor gives him some solid advice: just relax and figure out how to weave magic into his own fighting style. Thor reassures the kid that magic is just another tool in his knightly arsenal. He explains it is for when you are outmatched or surrounded, basically for when you are about to die. His students finally get it, realizing this new skill set helps them stay alive. Just then, a student named Mia unleashes a massive fireball, blowing everyone away. This pigtail girl, Luna, smugly declares that of course Mia is amazing. Turns out Mia was Thor's first student and actually bothered to learn the fundamentals. Thor reminds the knights that they all sucked at sword fighting at first, so they should just go back to basics. With that, he ends the lecture, warning them that mana training will fry their brains if they overdo it. This whole class thanks him and Luna for the lesson, all looking pretty pumped. His students gossip that he is a great teacher, even if he seems a little overwhelmed by their knightly energy. Luna casually mentions that support magic was the most hated class at the university, and Thor just has to agree. Our boy gets all defensive, insisting support magic is useful, but his students say he is too good to get the problem. One of them just lays it out for him: support magic is ridiculously, painfully difficult. See, attack magic is point and shoot, but support magic is like advanced calculus with a chance of explosion. It dawns on Thor that he never noticed because his only other students were absolute prodigies. Whoops. Just as he is having this crisis, the Captain Arno shows up with impeccable timing. Arno is all smiles, telling Thor his lectures are a huge hit with the knights. He then asks why Thor looks like he has seen a ghost, and our boy just mutters about learning a terrible truth. Getting down to business, Arno says he has an official assignment for Thor as a court mage. And we cut to a carriage thundering toward the very evil-looking Mount Eld. Arno explains their destination is Mount Eld, where a demon fortress just fell this morning. To prevent a full-blown panic in the capital, the king ordered a small, elite unit to retake it secretly. This is why Thor's been called in, with permission to bring any knights he chooses for the job. Of course, his students are treating this top-secret mission like a fun road trip in a fancy carriage. Verger tries to get them to act serious, reminding them they are supposed to be an elite unit. But Thor just smiles, saying real combat is the best training and thanks them for coming along. Luna immediately calls him out for forgetting her in his thank you speech. Oops, gotta include the whole team. One of the other knights then points out how weird it is to see him without Riene attached at the hip. Our boy gets all awkward, basically admitting yeah, it is a little strange for him too. Luna explains from her comfy napping position that Riene is out shopping with Princess Alina. This sends Thor into an immediate spiral, worrying she is mad at him after his drunken nightmare episode. Verger reassures him it was probably a sudden royal order, then announces he can see the fortress. Their target is way up on a mountain, swarming with monsters, so a flanking attack is the only way. They will be hitting from the south while the Empire's greatest fighting force assaults from the north. When Thor asks who this legendary force is, he is told they are just a bunch of adventurers. This knights realize this mission is tied to the dungeons, confirming all of Thor's worst fears. Fully committed, his students tell him they will follow his command no matter what. He accepts their loyalty with a grim nod, the weight of the mission settling in. With his eyes glowing, Thor makes a silent promise to protect them all and stop the Demon King's return. Verger watches him, noticing his aura is completely different now, unstable and intense, a stark reminder of his past trauma. Luna grabs Thor, warning him not to be a hero because she will not forgive him if he gets hurt. This reminds him of his old party, who also had a strict no self-sacrifice policy. Taking her words to heart, he agrees as their carriage proceeds toward the mountain fortress. They finally arrive at an Imperial outpost, greeted by a line of very serious-looking guards. Thor steps forward to announce his official business as a court mage, so let them pass. This lead guard just nods, saying they have been expecting him, and waves the whole crew inside. He explains their defenses are about to break, basically begging for help against the demon horde. Our boy just gives a calm understood, completely unfazed by the grim news. Once inside, his students immediately ask him what the grand strategy is for this fight. He lays it out: the demons just took the fortress, so they will not know how to use it effectively. Therefore, the plan is a full-speed charge, which his students are ridiculously hyped about. Thor just smiles, proud of his team, and tells them to leave all the support magic to him. With everyone on board, the squad makes a run for the ominous fortress looming ahead. And so the mission begins, a tiny elite unit against a mountain swarming with demonic energy. Thor is already casting on the move, reducing fatigue for everyone like the ultimate support system. His students are just in awe of his casual multicasting, something they find completely insane. Their stealthy approach lasts about 5 seconds before some ugly goblins spot them from above. Verger, the heavy knight in the rear, confirms the obvious: their cover is officially blown. This team pushes up the slope under a magic shield as monsters swarm down to intercept them. And the first goblin archer gets absolutely vaporized by a blast of light. The battle is on. Thor immediately takes command, telling Luna to focus on crippling the enemy's ranged support. She is confused, arguing that it is a huge pain if they just get back up and attack again. Another knight explains the strategy: incapacitating is way more efficient than going for every single kill. So Luna suggests a much simpler plan: just blast the entire mountainside with one massive spell. Thor decides that is a great idea for speed and starts stacking her with mana buffs. Feeling absolutely supercharged, she unleashes a little something called Hell Burn, real subtle. This resulting blast is so intense that even she looks shocked by her own power. And by intense, I mean she basically just detonated a small sun on the battlefield. Up at the fortress, the guards are completely freaking out, wondering what that insane explosion was. Thor is just face-palming, apologizing for severely underestimating her destructive potential. His brilliant cover story for the guards is that it was a magical weapon experiment, sure Jan. As the smoke finally begins to clear, the sheer scale of the devastation is revealed. Our boy admits the spell exceeded his expectations, having wiped out all the enemies and barricades. With a now pristine path to the fortress, he gives the order to push forward. But their advance is cut short when he spots a winged silhouette descending from the sky. It is not one but 3 armored demons dropping in, having bypassed their detection magic. Thor does not hesitate, instantly assigning targets for the whole squad to handle the new threats. One knight questions him taking a demon on solo, but Luna quickly reminds her that the commander's orders are absolute. To back them up, he casts a 5-stack shield and holy veil on the entire party. This knights quickly form a plan: one will be the decoy while the other attacks, treating the buffs as just insurance. This other knights form up, telling Luna they will be her shield so she can go absolutely wild. Meanwhile, Thor's winged target scoffs, wondering if this lone human is seriously underestimating it. This demon powers up with dark energy, promising to char our boy into a pile of cinders, but Thor just calls it a second-rate demon and starts stacking himself with speed buffs. He then blitzes forward in a blur, catching the demon completely flat-footed. In a panic, the demon fires off a death arrow, desperately trying to halt his insane charge. Thor's eyes just glow as he activates Hawkeye to instantly analyze the incoming spell. He sees the barrage is sloppy with plenty of gaps, letting him weave through the projectiles untouched. Absolutely furious that its magic failed, the demon decides to just use its sword instead. Suddenly, a massive magic wall materializes in front of Thor, blocking the demon's path. This demon is confused by the shield's strange color, not recognizing this type of human magic. With a smug, fanged grin, it just says, "Just kidding," ready to show off its own trick. It phases right through the illusion, gloating that it saw through Thor's little ploy. But Thor dodges the follow-up strike, and the demon cannot believe a human is this fast. Our boy just smirks, cheekily telling the demon to check what is right behind it. Turning around, the demon finds a nice, shiny ball of holy magic waiting for it. It realizes Thor planted the spell behind the shield, but arrogantly thinks it can take the hit. Too bad for him, Thor is already there, telling him he is way too slow on the uptake. With a holy infused blade, he plunges his sword straight through the demon's chest, and he drives the attack home, sending the demon flying back in an eruption of holy light. This demon cannot believe a single human is doing this as holy light erupts from its chest. As its armor crumbles away, Thor's first thought is immediately about how his team is doing. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Luna unleashes a blindingly powerful sacred arrow of her own. Her shot staggers a massive demon, letting the other knights move in for the coordinated takedown. Thor looks on, genuinely surprised that his students are already using his advanced magic so effectively. In another duel, one of the female knights slams her shield into a winged demon, completely overwhelming it. This demon gets absolutely furious, powering up with an acceleration skill for a desperate counterattack. At the same time, Verger brings his own holy infused greatsword down on another demonic foe. This female knight easily parries the demon's frantic strike, showing off her newfound prowess. Defeated, the demon curses all humans before collapsing, its last words a plea to its masters. This whole squad celebrates their flawless victory, absolutely buzzing about how well they work together. Checking in, Thor finds everyone completely unharmed and still full of energy, thanks to his buffs. His students are just gushing over his brilliant tactics, already asking for more lessons after the mission. Our boy has to rein them in, reminding them the job's not done until they actually secure the fortress. With that, the team pushes forward along the path Luna subtly cleared for them earlier. They soon reach the rendezvous point at the base of the mountain, the fortress looming ahead. Their path up the slope is eerily quiet, meaning the other attack force is doing its job a little too well. Thor's still grumbling about this so-called greatest force when a sudden sight makes him freeze in shock. Down in the ravine is a literal river of blood, littered with the bodies of countless slaughtered monsters. Orcs, demons, you name it, all cut down in single, clean strokes by some terrifyingly skilled swordsmen. One of the knights corrects him. It was not swordsmen who did this, it was just one person. Up on the path, they see the proof as a winged demon gets absolutely wrecked by a single strike. This demon cannot even process what is happening, trying to call out for its master as it dies. Its last sight is Thor's squad watching the whole thing unfold from the ridge above. And the students are just staring, completely floored that this is the greatest fighting force they heard about. A red-haired woman stands over the fresh corpse, her blade still glowing from the kill. She's got this incredibly intense aura, and one of the knights is already calling her pretty priorities. But Thor is just frozen solid, his mouth agape as he tries to say a name he clearly recognizes. Because down on that path of absolute carnage is none other than his former student, Lena. His team immediately puts it together, red hair, legendary name, and yeah, she is a total knockout. This is Lena of the Flashing Blade, a famous adventurer who clears S-rank dungeons for a living. Her cool facade completely shatters the second she spots him, barely choking out Professor. She approaches the group, confused about why the knight captain is not here, so Thor explains he is the subverger, immediately steps up to vouch for his commander, asking Lena to entrust the mission to Thor. Lena just smirks, telling him not to drag her down, which reduces our boy to a stammering wreck. His brain completely short-circuits, and a tiny, angry Reuniting pops into his head to yell at him for it. Shaking it off, Lena gets right back to business, and Thor confirms enemy reinforcements are on their way. Right on cue, a fresh horde of demons pours out of the fortress gates, led by another winged commander. He quickly confirms they are all demons, telling his squad there is no time for a long explanation. And their specialty is dark magic, which they are already preparing with some seriously creepy-looking totems. Thor figures it out, the demons are doing a mass sacrifice summoning inside the fortress. Luna immediately calls him on it, furious he is pulling his "I will fight alone" stunt again. This stakes are huge, he explains the fortress has a clear shot at the capital from here. Lena just smirks, announcing she is staying too, and casually throws some shade at Luna. His students agree to the plan, telling him not to get himself killed before they charge off. His final order is simple and brutal, just muscle your way past the demons and get inside. As the kids make a run for it, Thor and Lena square up against the demon commander. This demon leader is just dripping with condescension, mockingly impressed by the show they have put on. But Thor and Lena have zero time for a villain monologue, telling him to shut up and fight. Taking that personally, the demon unleashes a flurry of attacks, calling them arrogant trash. One of the demon grunts cannot even process Lena's speed as her blade flashes past. Meanwhile, the students are absolutely flying past the enemy lines thanks to Thor's stealth and speed buffs. Their commander is absolutely seething, realizing the kids just slipped right through his grasp. In a panic, he decides to rush the ritual, even if it is incomplete, before they lose more sacrifices. Realizing what is happening, Thor yells for Lena to cover their entry while he preps a 5-stack light spell. This demon commander is so salty, complaining that he has to sacrifice himself to deal with this riffraff. With a final prayer to his demon king, he offers up his own life force, erupting in dark energy. Lena moves to help, but the sacrificial magic explodes outward to meet her head-on. The students get caught in the blast, choking as they realize the demons just turned into a poisonous miasma. A massive dark energy vortex forms, and Thor knows with dread they were too late to stop it. Lena looks up in absolute horror, realizing this is a grand summoning and she totally missed it. Thor analyzes the vortex, deducing the monster's power is tied to the sacrifices, so it is not a demon king. Instead, it is the next worst thing, a super powerful winged dark dragon materializing from the portal. He admits he could have soloed one of these back in the day, but now he is yelling for Lena to regroup. Running back, Lena cheekily asks why she gets special permission to stay while the students got sent away. His reasoning is simple, he cannot fight a dragon and babysit 5 students, and she is an S-rank adventurer, not a kid. For some reason, the massive dark dragon is not moving, seemingly blocked by the poisonous miasma below. Thor decides a defensive strategy is suicide, so they will hit and run the second the miasma clears. Suddenly the dragon speaks, asking about yours, and Thor immediately panics, asking Lena if that is bad. This dragon continues the small talk, calling him stiff and saying it figured he would not remember it, all while charging a massive breath attack. This sends Lena into a rage, screaming at him for being so negative and asking how he could ever forget. With the dragon's blast incoming, Thor quickly throws up a powerful Holy Shroud to block it. She is completely impressed by the shield, wondering why he is still so insecure after 10 years. A blushing Lena is just happy he remembered her, softly calling him Professor. He just smiles back, confirming he'd never forget his first student Lena. And that one comment just completely melts her composure, leaving her a stammering, blushing mess. He then gets all flustered, trying to clarify he meant do not die like my professor, a smooth recovery that was not. Her sudden seriousness catches him off guard. For a moment she sounded just like Reuniting. Getting back into battle mode, Lena admits she is not great with barrier magic and is counting on him. And our boy's brain finally connects the dots, leaving him with a priceless wait a second expression. Thor tells Lena the dragon's breath is weakening, putting all his trust in her for the next move. But his brain is still buffering, trying to ignore the whole is Lena actually Reuniting. Crisis mid-battle. Lena just goes for it, stacking speed buffs and charging in to finish this thing fast. She unleashes a blinding attack, meeting the massive dark dragon head-on in a flash of light. Suddenly she is screaming for Thor, her blitz clearly not going according to plan. Our boy is already on it, casting a whole suite of buffs to supercharge her blade and mobility. With that holy power-up, Lena's blade slices deep into the dragon's leg. This beast roars in agony, clutching its wounds as holy light burns from within. As she lands, Lena seems a little stunned by the dragon's sheer resilience. Thor anticipates the counter, casting a full-body iron wall on her just in case. Right on cue, the dragon smashes the ground, sending a wave of deadly shrapnel her way. Lena is completely shocked that his support magic is so strong she can just tank the rubble without a scratch. Leaping over the dragon's back, she braces herself as another attack comes flying in. This time, Thor casts a gravity spell on her, which seems like a spectacularly bad idea. She gets yanked down hard, completely caught off guard by the sudden weight. And the dragon's tail whips right over her head. Thor just saved her with a forced duck. Landing safely, she realizes she would have been decapitated without his quick thinking. Thor is sweating bullets, noting this dragon is way too experienced at fighting humans. Then a memory clicks. He recalls a dragon named Wings that they failed to kill years ago. He yells for Lena to stay close, warning her this thing might have a special breath attack. This dragon just smirks, and Thor realizes with dawning horror that it understands every single word. Staring down this absolute beast, Thor cannot believe it. The dragon is actually laughing at them. Lena demands to know what a special breath is, and Thor explains it is a one-hit, never-recover kind of attack. A sudden memory hits Thor hard. This is the Demon King's black flame, the very same that killed the hero Alan. This reveal leaves Lena speechless, as it is the first time the professor has ever spoken of that fateful battle. Knowing the countermeasures all too well, Thor just tells Lena to focus on avoiding a direct hit. Internally, she notes he called her Reuniting, but figures now's not the time to correct him. Priorities, people. Right on cue, the dragon starts gathering that terrifying black flame in its maw. Thor's hands glow as he whips out a formula-based shield spell, the Holy Shroud. Throwing himself in front of her, he orders Lena to stay inside the barrier at all costs. With a roar, the dragon unleashes a swirling vortex of pure, unholy fire right at them. This torrent of dark energy slams into their holy barrier, threatening to completely overwhelm it. Safe inside, Lena is still staggered by the raw power, awestruck that Alan faced this head-on. Our boy just deadpans. Is that all? Which sends Lena into a state of pure, unadulterated shock. He lays out the plan. The dragon's overextended, so its movements will be slow, giving them an opening. Putting his full trust in her, Thor says he is leaving the reverse scale, the kill shot, to Lena. A blushing Lena accepts, thrilled that they are finally fighting side by side as comrades, not just teacher and student. He gives her the countdown. The main shield drops in 10, but individual shields will cover her for 3 seconds after. Her mind is blown. He is using unpublished auto-syncing shield theory, and his response is a casual more or less. With 4 seconds left on the clock, Thor's only thought is whether Lena will truly believe in him. Lena gives a confident smirk, confirming she's got the plan and is ready to go on one. At 0, Thor drops a whole buffet of buffs on her, and she launches forward like a holy missile. She lands on its back but immediately realizes the reverse scale is too well guarded for a direct hit. So Thor starts poking the beast with holy infused attacks, trying to annoy it into making a mistake. This dragon roars, clearly getting ticked off, and Thor knows it is about to make its big move. It takes to the air to deal with both of them, which is exactly what our boy was counting on. This beast clumsily repositions itself in the sky, leaving it wide open for just a moment. Lena screams that this is their chance, and Thor hits the dragon with a binding spell right on cue. With the dragon frozen midair, Lena makes an incredible leap, her sword glowing for the kill shot. This whole plan was to immobilize its wings and let her attack from its blind spot. Absolutely brilliant. She flies through the air, a golden blur aimed right at the dragon's vulnerable neck. From the sidelines, the students can only gawk at the sheer, unbelievable power of that one strike. But the severed head is not dead. It is gathering a terrifying amount of mana for one last trick. It unleashes a massive vortex of black flame breath aimed right at the unsuspecting students. Luna wonders if a simple shield can block this dying breath, but the flame just looks all wrong. Thor is absolutely screaming, knowing that even a weak black flame cannot be stopped by normal defenses. He is too far away to cast the holy enshroud, realizing with horror he will not make it in time. His mind flashes back to his past failures, terrified he is about to lose his comrades all over again. His students are about to be completely vaporized by the unholy fire. A shield is totally useless. In a desperate last-ditch effort, Thor reaches out, screaming for the holy enshroud he knows will not reach. But just as the flame hits, a massive holy enshroud pops up, cast by the students themselves. Our boy is just frozen in total shock, having been absolutely certain he'd failed them. This kid stand there completely unharmed, telling him he cannot just be their professor forever, they have grown up. Lena just smirks, adding that these students are actually good at barrier magic, unlike some people she knows. And the sheer wave of relief just floors him, sending Thor collapsing to his knees. His students immediately rush over, with the healer blasting him with a rapid heal spell out of pure panic. Tears start hitting the ground as he processes that he genuinely thought it was all over. Thor is just openly weeping, and Lena softly tells him she is just glad that he is alive. One of the knights looks on, finally understanding that Thor is not some carefree goofball but their captain's mentor. This others are a little less reverent, calling him a drama queen but also admitting the worn-out look is kinda hot. Their mage gets all flustered, telling him to stop crying before complaining he just wasted all her healing spells. Lena and another student help him up, insisting they were only safe because of his lessons. He is still a mess, barely able to comprehend that this time he actually protected everyone. They point out he stopped a grand spell that could have leveled the capital, calling him a true hero. One student, Mia, tells him he is their proud professor, and it finally sinks in that this is not a repeat of his past. He takes her hand, whispering her name in gratitude, and she just beams back at him. Overcome with emotion, Thor pulls her into a massive hug, thanking her for everything, which sends Mia into a blushing, stammering spiral, mostly focused on how nice he smells. Meanwhile, Lena is watching this whole heartwarming scene with a look of pure homicidal jealousy. And the mage student just loses it, screaming that he is an idiot for acting this way just because Reuniting is not here. This mage student yanks Thor into a hug, declaring herself the official Reuniting stand-in since Mia is cheating. Meanwhile, Lena is absolutely fuming, realizing she missed her hug opportunity because a student played the kid card. Thor just stares at his hand, still processing the battle and quietly whispering his fallen friend's name, Alan. Surrounded by his students, he wonders if Alan would be proud of the man he has become or just laugh at him. A memory flashes back to his old party, a time when he felt like he was always just trying to keep up. Hours later at the royal palace, Thor reflects on how he used to feel so out of place in such a grand setting. Walking the halls, he is surprised to feel relieved to be back, though he regrets not getting to talk to Lena. His thoughts are cut short when he spots the Emperor's personal guard, meaning the king himself is here. And there he is, the Emperor in all his glory, welcoming Lord Thor back from his little mountain excursion. Thor immediately kneels, but the Emperor just tells him to rise before casually asking about his tear-stained eyes. Our boy gets all flustered, trying to play it cool and apologizing for his less-than-heroic appearance. He explains he was in a hurry to check on something but will wait for Lena's return, trying to change the subject. But the Emperor pivots with a sly look, asking if it is true that Thor is still unmarried. Thor confirms it, his brain immediately flashing to a potential elf bride and an angry Emperor. This feels like a trap. This Emperor then reveals he has been playing matchmaker, suggesting it is high time Thor settled down and got married. Trying to weasel out of it, Thor humbly claims his life is plenty fulfilling and he needs more time before all that. His Majesty is not buying it for a second, calling him way too modest since his quick, unharmed return speaks for itself. Our boy is sweating buckets, realizing the Emperor's political pressure is just as scary as any monsters. This Emperor then notes that monster activity is on the rise and he will need Thor's power again, just as he needed Alan's. He finishes with a classic non-question, asking if Thor will lend his power to protect the innocent, a royal command in disguise. Cornered, Thor gives a noble speech about how his life is for the people, not for political power plays. This Emperor just looks down, saying he will gratefully keep those words in mind, a total power move. Just then, a silver-haired woman named Alina arrives, calling the Emperor father and scolding him for his poor manners. Busted by his daughter, the Emperor backpedals, telling Thor to stand as Alina asks what is up. His Majesty explains he was just trying to find Thor a wife, and Alina looks absolutely livid at his meddling. Not wanting to get chewed out by his daughter, the Emperor makes a strategic retreat, telling Thor they will talk later. Once they are alone, Alina gets right up in his personal space, asking if her dad was being a jerk. Trying to change the subject, he asks about Reuniting, and Alina says she has been with her all day and offers to send her right over. A flustered Thor insists it is fine, internally relieved that Reuniting was just with the princess the whole time. She just bulldozes right over his objections, insisting Reuniting will come running and then promptly leaves to summon her. Standing alone, Thor just processes how he was completely steamrolled, wondering why she was in such a rush. Meanwhile, Alina is absolutely booking it down a hall, demanding to know if the magic circle is ready. In a private chamber, she tells her maids to get Miss Reuniting's usual cloak, stressing they need to be quick about it. Stepping onto the magic circle, it is revealed this is a secret spell passed down through the royal family. This spell is a complete identity changer, altering everything from her hair to her face as she transforms. With the transformation complete, she is now a perfect double of Reuniting, asking her maids for a final check. In her Reuniting disguise, she internally panics about confessing to Thor, revealing her Lena persona was an unplanned accident. Meanwhile, at a ruined castle, a wounded knight reports that a fortress has fallen and they have lost another dragon. Before a horde of monsters, a demon lord declares they have lost enough against humans and it is time to march on the capital. And back in the capital, someone's gossiping, asking if it is true the professor actually broke down crying. One of the students is dishing all the dirt, still shocked that Thor just hugged Mia right after the battle. Around the table, the others admit seeing their normally composed professor break down was a total surprise. Another points out his eyes go dead serious at any mention of the Demon King, hinting at a darker past. This conversation shifts to the hero party's return, with everyone realizing there was never a victory parade 10 years ago. They put it together. With the hero Alan dead, there was absolutely nothing to celebrate back then. Then the topic pivots to Thor's relationship with Lena, with one student calling him surprisingly popular. Another student absolutely loses his mind, unable to believe anyone could get along with the notoriously difficult Lena. Right on cue, Thor himself walks in looking for a meal after all the chaos. This gossipy student immediately grills him about being close with the unsociable, bad-tempered Lena, a truly diplomatic approach. Thor just shrugs it off, saying it is not really a secret and he has already mentioned it to Reuniting. He explains that way back when he was an adventurer, he actually taught Lena support magic. Calling her his first disciple causes one of his students to have a full-blown meltdown over being lied to. Thor tries to save face with some technicalities. He was the first disciple after he became a professor, which nobody is buying. Just then, a knight brings them food, praising Lena for making the whole mission a breeze. A senior knight overhears and sweats, admitting he'd never have sent just 6 people if he knew about the 100 demons. One of the students proudly reports that their training paid off, with everyone successfully using the Holy Enshroud. They even boast about taking down captain-class demons with ease, crediting their healer for the support. Luna gets all flustered, insisting she was only safe because her friends were protecting her so well. This senior knight is still baffled, pointing out that most of them were just E-rank and D-rank beginners. His students just beam, explaining their magic growth was insane and their teamwork covered all their weaknesses. One of the students asks Thor for the mission details and our boy just casually snacks, ready to spill the tea. He explains their target was a poison dungeon way out in the mountains, right at the source of a major river. This student freaks out, but Thor says they got there just in time. Half a day later would have been a total catastrophe. Another student points out that without Thor's warning to the princess, they never would have even found the place. Thor starts connecting the dots himself, listing all the recent demon plots they have managed to foil one by one. This others chime in, remembering the grand summoning and other long-term schemes the demons had been cooking up. With all their sneaky plans busted, Thor grimly concludes the demons have only one move left, a full frontal assault on the capital. That little bombshell lands and the whole table just goes dead silent, the mood instantly tanking. A student asks the obvious, terrifying question, did he at least tell the emperor about this? He confirms he warned his majesty, expecting the kingdom to start gearing up for war immediately, but there is a catch. A perfect defense is basically impossible, since the capital is still recovering from the last war 10 years ago. Their forces are young, inexperienced, and their coordination is a complete mess. They are just not ready for a real fight. Worse, he remembers the nobles immediately shutting him down, telling the emperor it was all nonsense. They basically called him a fearmonger, completely in denial that the Demon King's forces could ever be a threat again. Back in the present, the student captain apologizes for being unreliable, and Thor realizes he got the exact same political pushback. This captain perfectly guesses the noble's excuse, that he was just overreacting to a few dungeons popping up. He recalls giving the same warning, but with the leadership burying their heads in the sand, the capital is a sitting duck. Another student nervously asks if they are even allowed to hear this, but the captain is too busy venting to care about clearance levels. Thor tries to comfort him, saying he needs to be ready since this group is the only place where different corps actually work together. But he holds back, knowing he cannot let his own urgency force these kids into a reckless fight on his behalf. This student captain insists they need more intel and to ramp up their magic training immediately. Later that night, as Thor walks through the city streets, a voice calls out his name. It is his students, and one of them immediately asks why he looks so down in the dumps. She gets right to it, asking if he is moping because he finally saw the flashing blade Lena again. This teasing continues, asking if his heart did not skip a beat seeing how pretty she has become. His other students pile on, calling him a boring old man for giving such a straight-laced answer. But Thor just smirks, reminding them that Reuniting is standing right there, so he has to watch what he says. They all assume he is just being polite for her sake and demand to know what he really thinks. Meanwhile, Thor's brain is short-circuiting as he finally connects the dots. Reuniting is Lena, who is also Princess Alina. His students notice he has gone completely silent and start demanding he just spit it out already. He plays it cool, saying it is nothing and he will respect her privacy if she wants to keep things a secret. This just leaves the others confused, while Reuniting realizes he has totally figured out her whole deal. So Thor pivots, announcing a private investigation trip tomorrow and asking who wants to tag along. This next day, the scene shifts to a small posting town located right near the capital. A hooded figure is talking to a merchant who says he skipped the capital because things seemed too rowdy. For a magic stone, the merchant spills the local gossip. Rumor is the Demon King's army is about to attack. This hooded figure watches him go, noting how weirdly fast the guy is to act on the news. And surprised it is a demon scout complaining his disguise is wearing off before they are done gathering intel. He declares the whole trip to this waystation town a complete and utter waste of time. Right on cue, Thor's students arrive, absolutely thrilled to be back at their old field training grounds. Our boy's private investigation somehow became a field trip for the entire night course, so much for stealth. His student captain, Arno, points out the carriage fees have spiked, sensing something's off in the town. A local stable hand immediately clocks them as capital folk and warns them to stay off the central highway. Playing it cool, Thor asks for the details, and the guy says monster activity is way up along the road. This guy explains the road is basically a dead end now because horses get spooked, making Thor question the magic wards. As for the broken wards, the stable hand just shrugs it off, not his department, apparently. When asked how he knew they were escorts, the man basically says they do not have that broke adventurer slouch. He then drops the real bombshell: rumors of a demon invasion are spreading, causing a mass exodus from the capital. Thor presses for the source of the rumor, but the stable hand just plays dumb, which is not suspicious at all. Just then, one of his students comes sprinting over, yelling that something's gone terribly wrong. After a quick thanks, Thor bolts, making a mental note to lecture his student on public panic attacks later. They find one of their own, Velgar, convulsing on the ground and foaming at the mouth. Yikes. His classmates are in total shock, explaining he was fine 1 second and went completely berserk the next. One of the shield bearers is frozen in panic, completely unsure how to handle the sudden chaos. But the student captain snaps into action, ordering everyone to get their heads in the game. His sudden authority seems to snap the others out of their daze, at least for a second. He immediately starts delegating, telling them to call the town guard and get the civilians to back off. As they form a perimeter, one student suggests handing him over, assuming he is a criminal. Thor rushes in, correcting them immediately. This kid is a victim, not a criminal, and tells them to ease the restraint. Wasting no time, he places a hand on the student's head and unleashes a powerful cleansing and healing spell. As the dark magic finally fades, Arno keeps the poor kid pinned, clearly not trusting him to stay chill. Now conscious, Velgar is completely disoriented, asking who Thor is while our boy calmly checks for side effects. With a sudden cough, a small, very ominous-looking purple crystal just tumbles right out of his clothes. Everyone's attention immediately snaps to this cursed-looking rock just sitting there sparkling in the dirt. One of the students instantly identifies it as a magic stone, and the whole team realizes this was no random illness. Velgar instinctively reaches for the thing, but his classmate screams at him to keep his hands away from it. Thor immediately starts grilling him, explaining some stones are booby-trapped, and Velgar admits a random kid just gave it to him. Getting right in his face, Arno demands a description of this mystery kid, but Velgar is still way too out of it to answer. Holding the stone, Thor explains that just possessing this thing is a major crime and gently asks again for any details at all. Right on cue, another student comes running, announcing he has brought the local town guard to the scene. This student captain, Arno, immediately takes command, splitting the team to secure the area and form a pursuit squad with Thor. He tells Thor to get a head start tracking the suspect while he coordinates with the authorities, promising to catch up. Wasting no more time, Thor's little investigation team mounts up and gallops out of town to chase their only lead. As they ride, the students speculate that the person who handed over the stone was probably just as clueless about its danger. But Thor drops a bombshell. That was not just a magic stone, it was a failed dungeon core, something only very specific beings can create. Mia instantly puts it together, realizing this points directly to the Demon King and his executive class cronies. What is really bugging Thor is the convenient amnesia. Velgar only remembers a hooded person, not even their gender or age. He then recalls the stable hand mentioning a caravan heading for the Hydaishell Plains, confirming this was the right place to investigate. A quick look at the map shows the Hydaishell Plains are the most direct, if difficult, route for a demon army to march on the capital. Arno pales, realizing the terrain is a nightmare for both attackers and defenders, making it the absolute critical choke point for any invasion. Arno lays out the grim reality. This terrain is a natural fortress for a demon horde, not for them. Against a massive army, the capital's defenses would not stand a chance in this wide-open death trap. Mia asks Thor for a plan to find the demon scouts, but our boy just admits he has got absolutely nothing. He is already regretting this casual field trip, but figures the demons will come to them after the scene they caused. Suddenly, Thor pulls his horse to a dead stop, sensing something approaching and putting the whole squad on edge. A hooded person just strolls out of the rocks, claiming to be a traveling merchant, a totally normal place for one. This merchant offers them a deal on potions, acting all friendly while sizing up the heavily armed knights. One of the students immediately gets to the point, asking if they are the one who gave Velgar that cursed magic stone. While Mia thinks the kid looks harmless, Thor's internal alarm is screaming that this story is way too convenient. This moment the merchant hears the name Thor, their friendly little act completely shatters. At the same time, Thor's horse starts going wild, confirming his suspicion that something is very, very wrong. Not waiting for an answer, Mia just blasts the merchant with a light spell to see what they are really hiding. Her classmates are completely stunned, having no idea why she is attacking a seemingly innocent person. This more experienced knights, however, draw their swords, instantly realizing they have walked right into a trap. Annoyed, the merchant just sighs that they wanted to chat more as the holy light envelops them. And surprised, the disguise melts away, revealing a demon who knows Thor by name, the legendary barrier mage. With a smug bye-bye, the demon activates a massive teleportation circle right under the entire team. Mia looks up in pure horror, screaming that they are all caught in a teleportation trap. This demon vanishes with a final taunt, accidentally grabbing a horse but leaving its rider behind on the ground. Now perched on a cliff, the demon muses that fighting a support mage is just plain annoying before making their getaway. This demon casually flies off, figuring they will be gone long before the wingless humans can escape the plains. But first, with a sudden flash of magic, they decide their stolen horse has served its purpose. This absolute psycho licks their bloody fingers, announcing they are a brainy type who gets hungry, so it is time for a snack. And just like that, the horse is a goner, leaving a very grim scene on the ground. Meanwhile, the teleportation trap dumps Thor's team unceremoniously across the landscape. Thor, of course, lands on his feet, sword drawn and ready for the ambush that is surely coming. Looking down from a cliff, he realizes the goal was not an ambush at all, it was to separate them. His mind immediately jumps to Mia since the demon knew his name and would target the light mage first. This other students are just as scattered, realizing they are up against an executive-class demon from the old war. This whole situation jogs a memory for Thor about a legendary demon tactician whose face no one had ever seen. Finding Mia is his top priority, and thankfully he uses Reuniting's tracking tool to get his bearings before leaping across the canyon. From his new vantage point, the sheer scale of the plains hits him and he has no idea how to find anyone. Then he spots something useful down below, a massive desert condor just chilling in its nest. A plan starts forming, realizing a bird that big could carry 3 people if he uses his lightweight magic. Elsewhere, Arno is having a much worse time, getting dropped right into a nest of angry sand baboons. After wiping the floor with them, he is more worried about Mia and Thor than his own situation. He puzzles over the demon's motive, since using high-level teleportation just to split them up seems odd. Back with the demon, they confirm the plan. They are a strategist, not a fighter, with a different objective in mind. Another student is having an even worse day, getting cornered by a giant scorpion monster. This triggers a flashback to Thor training Mia, who asks to learn lightweight to make her massive shield easier to handle. In a flashback, Thor advises Mia to forget lightweight and focus on her own unique strengths. So instead of making things lighter, he taught them to use weight increase on their shields. This lets a shield bearer absolutely flatten a monster, creating a perfect opening for a follow-up. Then you bring down a magically weighted mace for a 1-2 combo that ends the fight. He promised this technique would be enough for them to solo even C-rank monsters. Back in the present, Mia is facing that exact scorpion nightmare, completely isolated from the others. She actually manages to take one down, totally shocked that an E-rank like her pulled it off. But her victory lap is cut short by the arrival of its much bigger and angrier friend. This look on her face says it all. She is 100% unequivocally screwed. In a total panic, she screams at her horse to just get out of there and save itself. She bravely plants her shield, deciding to buy her horse enough time to escape the canyon. Mia resolves to make a stand, determined to hold the line instead of just running away. She's just trying to endure, putting all her faith in Thor finding her before it is too late. Right on cue, the giant scorpion unleashes a double pincer beam attack as she braces for the end. Suddenly, she looks up in total disbelief, calling out for her commander. Because Thor has arrived just in the nick of time, praising her for holding out so well. Mia's relief immediately turns to sass, asking what he means by just you, which clearly annoys him. He explains her tracking signal went dark, so he panicked and basically flew across the canyon to find her. Turns out he used Reuniting's tracking tool and pushed his own acceleration magic to its absolute limit. Now he is just yelling at her for the scare she gave him while she hides behind her shield like a turtle. Mia's still in shock as Thor swoops in on his new bird mount, asking how he even got there. He identifies their foe as Barbados, a former Demon King executive, while their bird casually munches on the dead scorpion. This students remember Barbados was a ghost-like figure who was never caught, and Thor suspects he is making a comeback. This raises the stakes immensely, with Thor warning this could be a repeat of the disastrous war from a decade ago. Our boy then apologizes for his light investigation accidentally turning into a potential world-ending crisis. Whoops. But his students are totally hyped, seeing it as an honor to help uncover the demon army's plot ahead of time. Thor is just completely floored by their unwavering loyalty, getting all blushy and emotional for a second. With the team finally regrouped, they officially begin their demon hunting operation through the treacherous canyon. Arno rightly points out they cannot just wander aimlessly and asks Thor if he actually has a plan for this. Smirking, Thor pulls out Reuniting's magic pendant, explaining her modified mana detector is about to save the day. His students are just staring blankly, having absolutely no clue what he is talking about. He clarifies the tool can lock onto the demon's specific mana signature, basically giving them a perfect homing beacon. Arno immediately takes charge, suggesting a 2-person scout team to test the waters while the others provide support. Thor is totally on board, telling Arno to take full command since he is the captain, no need to defer to him. This makes Arno wonder why Riene only gave the fancy prototype to Thor, who explains it requires insane mana control to work. Unlike the standard issue Nightcore gear that only finds big stuff, this baby can track individual signatures. Impressed by his knowledge, the students learn Thor almost became a magic tool engineer instead of a mage. Meanwhile, the demon tactician is getting bored, chilling on a cliff and wondering where their targets are. Suddenly, their little dragon companion freaks out, sensing something approaching at high speed. At the same time, Thor is rocketing ahead, feeling some kind of interference and yelling that something is coming right for them. This demon tactician complains they cannot fight Thor head-on, since their magic is all about setting traps, not direct combat. When their dragon suggests just fighting, the demon is absolutely horrified by the idea of doing anything exhausting. So their brilliant plan is to just run, insisting they are a support type and not some battle-crazed moron. Too bad for them, Thor is already using his own magic to launch himself like a human cannonball right at them. This demon's eye just widens in pure confusion as they sense an incoming projectile named Thor. In a blur of magic, our boy completely overshoots them, leaving the demon tumbling through the air totally blindsided. They are completely losing it, wondering what kind of trick Thor pulled to cross the canyon in a literal second. That is the face of a master strategist whose entire plan just got drop-kicked into the sun. Before they can even recover, one of the students just blasts them with a holy shield, adding insult to injury. This kid is just as shocked, admitting it was a total lucky shot because the demon was just falling at him. Now the demon is eating dirt and smoking while the student politely asks if they are okay, peak battlefield etiquette. Bleeding from their eyes, the tactician realizes this has gone from a minor setback to I am about to be a corpse. That is because Thor is already diving in, sword first, and using acceleration magic to end this permanently. This demon tries to flee to reset the board, only to find they are completely and utterly stuck. Turns out Thor has them pinned with some kind of binding magic, making their wings completely useless. They are absolutely seething, unable to believe some pathetic little swordsman actually got the drop on them. But right then, Velger, the kid from the beginning, comes flying in with a kick, clearly blaming Thor for all this. As the other students put up shields, the demon pulls out a glowing trump card for a last-ditch escape. This thing detonates in a massive explosion, completely engulfing Velger in a wave of fire. But Thor stands firm, shielding the kid from the blast, who confirms he is totally unharmed. After the smoke clears, Thor tracks the demon's escape route, noting a second surprise attack is now off the table. Velger asks for a read, and Thor explains that dodge was inhumanly fast, way beyond normal acceleration magic. Analyzing the demon's gear, Thor finds it weirdly plain, no enchantments, just a bag and a big cleaver. It all clicks for our boy, this has to be Barbatos, but his actual combat strength is a total unknown. With the immediate threat gone, Thor decides regrouping is the priority since the dragon was a non-issue. His students are totally baffled, questioning how a dragon small enough to fit in a boot even got in their way. This whole demon with a dragon familiar thing is unheard of, except for one legendary figure they recall. Just then their horses trot back into view, a surprisingly convenient and welcome sight after all that chaos. A light bulb goes off for Thor. The monomasking on the horses worked, giving him a huge clue about demon detection. Even though they are low on intel, Thor confidently hands command back to a very stressed-out-looking Arno. Getting down to business, our boy starts assigning roles to Velger and Mia for the next phase of the plan. Meanwhile, Barbatos' little dragon companion is having a full-on tantrum, demanding to know why they ran. This demon tactician, looking absolutely wrecked, just flat-out admits he despises direct combat. But then a truly unhinged smile spreads across his face as he confesses his real passion is outsmarting people. At that exact moment, Thor's tracking tool goes haywire. The demon's mana signature suddenly changes completely. He realizes it is not just different, it is scattered and moving impossibly fast like it is everywhere at once. Suddenly, the whole team is ambushed by a swarm of ominous purple orbs which they quickly identify as poison. Using his magic sight, Thor sees they are just clumps of miasma as Barbatos' voice echoes, saying he has been waiting. From a clifftop, the demon taunts him, condescendingly noting that a support mage cannot do much against this kind of swarm. And then Barbatos just plops down, smug as hell, and asks if Thor knows who he is messing with, a challenge if I have ever heard one. Thor orders a student named Lewis to cast Lightweight, clearly setting up another insane high-speed attack. But Barbatos and his dragon have already vanished, leaving Thor to realize this whole taunt was a trap. Velger, however, completely ignores this and launches himself at the demon with his spear anyway. He plunges straight into the poison cloud as Barbatos mocks them for acting like friends. Trapped inside the haze, Velger starts screaming, realizing the demon controls the poison and he cannot dodge.